Meeting to order. Please rise and join us in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. We got a pretty busy agenda. I'm going to skip to, if you have a copy of our agenda, down to what's listed as item 5, 710, the Great American Tavern extension of patio hours. And I see there's representatives here from the Great American Tavern.
Yes.
And it's my understanding you're looking for a permanent extension of your patio hours, which we had allowed on a temporary basis back in, I believe it was June or July? June. So.
Yes. So we're looking to extend the hour, to keep the extension of hours from the original 6 o'clock deadline to, I believe it was 9 o'clock. Yes.
And Mr. Valiakonis, you know what had been presented to us by the police department was their reports concerning their observations of activity down in and around Great American Tavern, but for maybe one or two. My recollection is 1 or 2 issues over that time period. It's been relatively quiet, satisfactory, at least from the police perspective. I know there's residents from the community that probably want to be heard regarding it, but in terms of our North Reading Police Department, things have gone pretty well since we have extended the hours.
Well, we've done some things. A neighbor behind us, we actually went up and planted arborvitaes for like a screen wall to try to help with the people outside talking, because he was kind of the only one affected by that. He's not here tonight, but he said that it seemed to help.
I actually spoke to him.
Is that Mr. O'Rourke?
Mr. O'Rourke, he's delighted. So.
Okay. And we also spent about $7,000 to $8,000 on soundproofing. We soundproofed the ceiling with the fire-rated. It was like a vinyl with fire-rated foam in it to help deaden the sound from escaping, because we believe it's coming right out of the roof, the sound, with the cube decking. So we did that. It seems to help inside as well as outside. I mean, I don't know how far of a radius it might have dampened it a little bit. I'm not sure what it did as far as radius-wise, but it definitely, in the parking lot, you can tell it's quieter. When we do our patrolling around with the sound, it seems to be quieter. I won't say it's gone. I don't think it will ever be gone the way it's right on the street. The building's right on the street. So we have done things to try to help the sound.
Board members have any questions for representatives from Great American Tavern? Mr. Prisco.
I don't have a question, but I just want to make a point that Chief Murphy, as you see in our package, put out a selective enforcement order through Lieutenant Zimmerman. Since at the time we elected to do this temporary extension, so over that whole entire period, he had a selective enforcement order out there for his guys to go by and check on things during those hours.
There's actually been...
And even in the evening hours. So they actually increased their patrol of that area. Definitely. And so the reports that we got back were just like pretty much what you said. And I think one of them actually was a non-Great American Tavern call, so one of the issues. So overall, it was very little.
I'd like to hear if there's any area residents.
Oh,
I'd like to hear them before.
But before we open up, I just want to make sure we made that point so they know that we didn't, even though we made the change here, our enforcement, our police department also made a change in their patrol.
Correct.
Now I'll ask if there's any residents that would like to get up and speak regarding this issue. If you just raise your hand, I'll call upon you. Just please stand up to the microphone, introduce yourself, name and address, and the board's more than happy to hear from you. Mrs. Bythorpe.
Hi, my name's Kathy Bythorpe. I live at 2 Brooks Road. I am probably 3 or 4 streets away, and I have been here in the past. We do still hear the bands. I can't imagine people on Alston Road, and I believe our neighbors are still bouncing to the music. So $7,000 or not, it's still loud. I actually called you last night, the restaurant last night, because it was 10:15, and my son and I would have liked to have gone to bed and have it quiet, and it wasn't. You had live music last night. It took 3 phone calls before I actually got somebody on the phone. And I said, do you have live music tonight? And they said, yes, but it just ended. And I said, good, I could get off the phone without complaining. At 11:15, I was still listening to it on a Sunday night. Now, as far as I know, you had live music on Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays?
Yes,
And now
sir.
it's Sunday night, too?
No, it's not. That was a private fundraising function that someone had.
Okay, but still very loud. And I noticed you had a advertisement in the paper last week that you're offering rides till 1:30 in the morning, Thursday morning this week. So
To go home,
are we
correct.
going to have a live band Wednesday night till 1 o'clock also?
Well, we don't have it till 1. It would be stopped at midnight. Everybody needs to be
Okay.
out of the building by 1.
Okay, but it is still loud. So my issue is I wouldn't do you any more favors until you took care of the noise.
I don't think the noise would ever be stopped unless we stop having entertainment. And unfortunately, we couldn't stop entertainment.
Well, because last time you blamed it on the landlord in the building, but I don't
I still
understand
think
why
the
we can
building's
still
a lot-
feel it inside our homes with our doors closed 3 or 4 streets north of where you're located.
Yeah, I don't understand either.
Okay, and I did call the police the end of October after listening to cars peeling out of the parking lot at between 10:30 and 11:30 every Thursday and Friday night. Were marks in your parking lot and on 28. And I came home one night, on a Friday night, it was probably the end of October, and there was another piece on the news about an accident, fatal accident. I decided I needed to call before something happened.
To do to us,
so-
a fatal accident?
No, to people leaving your establishment,
So there was a
peeling out
fatal
onto
accident?
28. No.
Oh, okay.
Again, I saw it on the news that
Okay.
there was a
I
fatal
was
accident
just
somewhere
confused.
else, and I felt responsible to call the police, and they said they would watch that night, but they weren't on patrol between 10:30 and 11:30 those nights, because it was waking everybody up.
They are in our parking lot just about every weekend around 10 o'clock till we leave.
Yep.
Periodically, I won't say
Okay.
they.
And I understand it's not your fault what your patrons do outside, but it's just a neighborhood issue. But the noise is still there, and you can feel it. It is better, I will tell you that, but on a Sunday night, we have to listen to it now too, and that's not fair to the other residents that live closer than I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to get up and say anything? This is your opportunity. No? Okay. Board members? Mr. Missouri?
I guess we're hearing a complaint about loud noise from the bands or music that's being played. And can we separate that issue from the current request, which is
I think it's separate from that.
different, right? And so, based on that, I'd like to hear what additional things you plan on doing associated with that issue. I gather the arborvitae's helped out there. What else can be done? Or what do you plan doing?
I don't know of anything else that can be done, to be
I'm
honest.
talking
with
about the music.
The-
That's
the music?
talking about, no,
Oh.
I'm talking about your requests for outdoor,
you. The patio?
the patio.
I'll be honest with
any
you.
I don't think that I've heard any issue from
Well, that's what
anyone
I'm-
concerning the patio itself. The issue's been music coming from the interior of the establishment.
Oh,
But not-
I guess
nothing-
what I'm getting at is the request is for an extension
Right.
to the patio.
And I don't think there's any issue.
Well, the only reason the patio was put back is because the sound of the building is what stopped. In other words, it was a roadblock until we did something.
Right.
The way I took it, the way I understood it. But to be honest with you, the patio, at 7 o'clock at night, you can't sit out there. You get bitten alive. There might be 2 or 3 people out there. But the reason we want it is because we want to be able to provide the same outdoor seating that the other restaurants have in town. That's why we want it.
Mr. Prisco?
But in summary, based on what I read, and what I hear from the chief, and what I hear or not hearing from the residents, in regards to just changing the patio hours, I don't think we have an issue. I think it confirms that if we approved it, we would probably continue. The issue, it sounds like, it's after 9 o'clock and up till closing, and when you're playing the loud music, especially on a Sunday evening, or even if it's a fundraiser, do you typically shut your music down at 10 o'clock, or is it later?
Later,
It's later, during the week, Friday, Saturday nights? Would
Thursday
be
through
later.
Saturday.
Yeah, it's around midnight,
12,
right?
12:15.
Again, I think we got to settle this issue, but I would still have I think there's got to be a small compromise on the music that late at night, if it's really that loud. Granted, we want you to be successful, don't want to take away from your business, and, you know, it is a commercial area, it is suited,
Well,
it's zoned for you to do what
That's the
you're
thing.
doing.
That's why we pay the tax rate we pay.
Yeah,
You know, and that's why we pay all the
That's another
fees we pay
subject.
for the licenses and everything else.
Yeah.
To be able to do what we're doing.
Listen, these are your neighbors, my friend.
I
I don't have to
understand.
live with them, you do, and
I
I think you
understand
should
that.
listen to them, that's
Oh,
all I'm
I-
gonna tell
I-
you, okay? You know, you shouldn't get
We're
upset
trying
about
to.
it, you shouldn't get edgy
No,
about
but
it.
the only reason I am is because when we first went for this license, the patio was part of it, and there was an issue with paperwork. And it fell by the wayside, the patio. So
Yeah, I
here
don't think
it
the
is.
patio, I don't think the patio is your problem.
No, I know, but it is tonight, or it has been, this is why we
Oh,
keep
I don't think the
coming
patio
in.
is your problem tonight.
Okay.
You're not getting the message, I guess. The patio is not the problem, at least from my perspective.
Okay. The noises, I understand the noises.
Anyone else? Mr. O'Leary?
Just, yeah, the patio per se is not the issue. However, we're looking for an accommodation on the license, and there are other ancillary issues associated, you know, with the music and the noise in the neighborhood. You know, we don't necessarily have to accommodate you and assist you in this fashion, and I'm not so sure it necessarily makes that much of a difference in your business plan as far as what you're doing. But initially, if you recall, you know, there was some complaints about outside noise from people outside smoking and things of that nature, and you know, so maybe it could have been segregated over to this area, but you couldn't serve food and have smoking and those sorts of things. So there were some other
Correct.
issues that came up in relation to the patio. I mean, what occurred last night, and this is the first I've heard of it, I haven't heard from Mrs. Bythrow. I have in the past, but I haven't heard from her most recently about, you know, last night. But, you know, Sunday night at midnight or 11:15 appears to be somewhat unreasonable,
I agree.
you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, fundraising, you know, you rented out the space to,
I agree.
you know, some other outside outfit, but you're in control of the establishment as to what happens inside. And, you know, to me, there needs to be some sort of consideration, or more consideration, you know, for the neighborhood, day of the week. Again, Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, that's entertainment night, that's when you do most of your business. Understandable, but I haven't heard any commitment, or I haven't heard any feedback
there
in
was
relation to what
the-
occurred last night.
Right.
And I don't know if it occurred previously or not.
It's never been on a Sunday, ever, except for last night. And if we knew the extent of it, we probably wouldn't allowed them to come in and do what they did.
Mhm.
Now that it's always, obviously,
Yeah,
hindsight to
hindsight's great,
say,
yep.
you know, what we should have done after, but I agree. I agree with you on Sundays, absolutely.
And I'm just trying to think as far as the entertainment license, that's separate, correct?
No, it's all the same.
So, I mean, we can, at some point, if we find it necessary, we can take some action and restrict the live entertainment hours.
Sure can, yeah.
So, and again, as far as the patio is concerned, you know, people want to eat outside and get eaten outside. You know, that's
No.
certainly their choice. And again, that's not the issue. You're accommodating Mr. O'Rourke and the Pluff Ave people is terrific. Per se, I don't have a problem with that. However, I'll put you on notice. I'm inclined to entertain, if things don't change, curtailing the live entertainment hours to make it more reasonable if you can't control it a little bit better. And I understand you're making the investment, and you've made some investments. The structure itself is tough to manage, you know, it's like an airplane hangar.
absolutely is.
So
Well, I
it's a-
think too with the open space right
Right.
next to it, it's acting as a base, you know, the noise
Until
is
something
just
else gets
bouncing
in,
around.
until something else gets in the building, that's a good point, too. But again, I think you need to be more sensitive than you are. And, you know, well, I don't have to live with your neighbors, I do have to listen to them, I do have to answer to them.
No, I understand.
And I intend on, you know, looking out for their interests going forward. So just be forewarned. You know, if we continue to get complaints, and, you know, I, for one, will entertain curtailing the hours of live entertainment at the establishment. I'm not going to do it now, because again, I want you to succeed, I want you to continue to grow. You know, so just to let the neighbors know, I'm going to support the motion to expand the hours on the patio, but just be forewarned that, take a look going forward as far as live entertainment. Okay?
Mhm.
Fair enough?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know what else you can do, I'm not in your business, but if there's a sound consultant that can come in and help you.
We've had, that's what we,
had that done?
yeah, that's
Mhm.
how we come up with what we come up with. And it was a long process. It wasn't like a, you know, a day, let's do this.
Yeah.
It was over months and months.
I don't know if you can
So this just
more.
was, I know we were here, I think it was July, June or July?
June.
So these went up 2 weeks ago? So we finally got them in and got them installed a couple weeks ago. So that's what I mean, it was a long
Maybe you don't have
process.
enough, because if she was hearing it,
Well,
you know, she was hearing it last evening, and,
But I think it comes up to managing it too, Sean. I think, you know, maybe he's made all the investments he can make right now, but now it comes up to being reasonable with your neighbors, being reasonable with the noise. I think they've been fairly acceptable to him running his business till midnight on the weekends, but when we get into the Sunday and during the week time, I think he's got to be a little more in.
From what I'm hearing, I think you learned a lesson.
Yeah,
I don't think we're going to be hearing anything
that's the
about
message
Sunday
they're
night
sending to him, and
Yeah.
entertainment
No,
going on at those hours.
Almost
I think
done.
that's clearly the message,
yeah,
but
this is a management issue, I
But,
think. I do. I
no,
think he's
I-
addressed the sound issue.
I don't know if it's been done to the satisfaction of the neighborhood.
Well, you'll never do that.
Because, let's face it, I mean, if we, you know, we can tail back your entertainment license, but in all honesty, your business, you need your entertainment to go until
Mhm.
11, 12 o'clock. Otherwise, it's no point in having. So I think you have to go back with your sound consultant to the drawing board and come up with other measures to make sure that do you even a better job containing the music to the outside, if you want to have your license for entertainment, as long as it is.
But I think he does make a legitimate point, as far as the rest of the vacant portion of the building certainly
Oh, sure, negatively affected.
doesn't help,
Yeah.
you know,
No
so
doubt.
So you got to manage.
let's hope that it gets to tenants quickly.
I wish.
Everyone wants you to succeed, so,
So do we.
all right.
Thanks.
So, all right, unless there's anything else, I think we can entertain the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the change of outdoor patio seating hours for the Great American Tavern, 303 Main Street as follows. Would we have up till 9 p.m.?
Thank you.
So at 9 o'clock, is that what you're looking for?
Yes.
Up to 9 p.m.
That's the complete motion.
That's it.
We have a motion,
Second.
second by Mr. O'Leary. Any further discussion? Hearing-
Just one other thing, just to the residents, again, you have to look out for your own interests. We don't live there. You know, and if the police department doesn't hear about it, or town hall doesn't hear about it, we don't hear about it. So, be vigilant.
In
and let us
the
know. And
Great American
again,
Tavern.
Make the effort,
Yeah.
call them.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Unanimous. Okay. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Back to item number 3. Anyone here for public comment? Well, all these people, no one has a public comment? I'm so disappointed. Nothing to share with us? We got about 10 minutes to
Where's the
spare.
love?
Oh, boy. Why is everyone here?
Sean, it's good to have.
Oh, it is good, but
Don't run 'em out of
for some
town.
public comment. We got about 10 minutes to fill.
No, we still got to do minutes. It could take
Minutes?
15 minutes.
Why can't we, oh, the other one's 7:40?
Right.
Well, let's do the minutes.
It's not a hearing, so,
Well, let's tackle our minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the October 15, 2012 executive session minutes as written.
second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Prisco.
It's only executive session minutes?
Only,
Good.
All right, you okay? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
abstain?
1, 4, 0, 1 abstention. Thank you. All right. We will go to number 6 on the agenda, which I think we got a few people for. This will be the discussion regarding the Pine Forest Park litigation settlement, potential settlement.
Mr. Chairman, recuse myself.
You want to state why, Mr.?
I have a family member who has an interest in the matter.
Just for the public's information, any discussion that we've had regarding this matter, Mr. Fode has recused himself from all discussion, removed himself from the room, and not participated in any discussion or participated in any vote that the board may have taken previously on this matter.
Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
Mr. Valiakonis, would you like to update the audience as to where the Pine Forest Park litigation stands and where we anticipate it may be going? And I know Mr. Prisco will assist. Mr. Prisco has taken up quite a bit of the load for the board in terms of this particular issue. I know he's met with probably some of you that are here in the audience, and a lot of credit goes to both he and Mr. Valiakonis concerning this issue.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Greg Valiakonis. I am the town administrator. And as you know, for a period of years, Mr. Petrosino has proposed a development in your neighborhood. And as part of that proposal, we wish to acquire town water. And as you know, the subdivision is equally divided between, the subdivision is north in Andover, and the access is via North Reading. And so what ended up happening was Mr. Petrosino filed a lawsuit. You may be aware of the fact that there was a lawsuit originally filed against the Community Planning Commission. Ultimately, the lawsuit was filed against the Board of Selectmen. And the board became responsible for negotiation of a settlement in the interest of avoiding potentially expensive litigation to the town. And so we have proceeded with negotiations through our legal counsel, and as a result of those negotiations, there's been a draft agreement that's been put together between the parties, a settlement agreement. Prior to that settlement agreement being executed by the Board of Selectmen, the board wishes to have the residents come in, ask any questions that you may have about the project, questions that you may have relative to the settlement agreement. Our attorney is here. He's here to answer any questions from the board. Jason, could you put your hand up?
Jason Karate.
Jason is our attorney who's worked on this matter and negotiated the agreement with Mr. Petrosino when he was attorney. So keep in mind, nothing has been signed at this point. However, I would turn it back to the board in terms of any additional information.
My added comment to the following is that it's probably not what you want to hear, but this development, regardless of what we do, Mr. Petrosino is going to be able to build up in his land, provided he complies with the conditions that were set forth by the town of Andover. I think most of you are aware what those conditions are. So he's going to build his 11-lot subdivision up there. The town has some risk if it does not, and has some exposure financially if it does not agree to provide him with water, drinking water to those lots. So that's where we sit in terms of the decision we have to make. Do we or do we not provide him water? Regardless of what we do, he's going to build his 11 lots up there.
11 or 12, right? 11 or 12.
Yes.
11.
Or 12.
Yes.
Jason, is it 11 or 12?
It's 11. It's only 11. It's all there, Andover's approving for is 11, no matter what.
Okay.
It's only 11.
So, Mr. Prisco took on the responsibility of the board here, and he's done a lot of work over the last few weeks relative to this particular issue. One major issue is concerning the current proposed access for construction vehicles up and through your neighborhood. And I have driven up there, and quite honestly, I don't know how large construction vehicles are going to get in and out of that particular neighborhood without causing issues for you folks. Mr. Prisco, Mr. Valiakonis, just last week had some discussions with the Department of Transportation for the state. What was proposed by them to DOT was an alternative construction vehicle access road. Some of you may have heard about this already through Mr. Prisco, but essentially what has been proposed to DOT, which they have under consideration, we have no opinion from them as of yet, is to have an access road that comes in off of Route 125, so those construction, for the purpose of construction vehicles, so those construction vehicles do not go through your neighborhood for the next 2 or 3 or 4 years, or however long it takes for Mr. Petrosino to develop those lots. Mr. Prisco, if you want to take it over from there.
I'd like to say a few words, and then I'd also like to introduce the chairman of the planning committee, Mr. Warren Pierce, which I hope you keep me straight on a bunch, and I'm sure you can share a lot of information as well. But this is the first time I've seen the plan. I went up to Andover today and received the plan. As you can see, it's 11 lots. Here's Flash Road, this area here, and that's going to be the main entrance area. Last Thursday, Mr. Valiakonis and we did have a visit with the Department of Transportation, and I went up there and I shared with them our concerns as a board on how these roads are really not suited for the types of construction vehicles that have to come into this site to build these 11 lots over the next, who really knows how many years. Probably, at least 2, maybe 3 years. 2 years at least, right? And I know even just getting started, where they're up there taking down trees, you've already been inflicted with some of the large equipment coming up your road, disrupting the neighborhood. So one of the things this doesn't really show too well is a little further down in this area is a temporary access road for emergency vehicles. This is North Reading's land that abuts Route 125. And this is one of the sticking points that was really holding up this whole thing for the longest time, as most of you know. But for the folks at home, I'm just repeating this so you know, folks at home are listening, and I just want to be very detailed so they understand. DOT has just recently approved granting access off of 125 on that emergency access road. It's actually not the very best way to get in on this site. I met with the fire chief in Andover today. We had lots of discussion about it. He's not particularly happy with it, but he's going to have to live with it because DOT has made this final decision. But during my discussion with them, I brought up a video that was provided to me by one of the residents. I went over this, and I don't think they had a strong appreciation for the real impact, or did they really even know what Flash Road, how it was even designed and how it's built. It's really a dirt road, and some of it's actually even washing away as you get closer to Roach Circle. In this area, some of it's washing away down into a little pond area over here, which is somewhat concerning at this point. Now, I know Mr. Petrosino has made the commitment to do road improvement in this area, and I was hoping, Mr. Pierce, if you wouldn't mind, after I get done my little rant here, if you could just talk about what that means. And I have a slide for you that maybe you can talk to, and what the impact to the neighbors will be, so everybody's on the same page. But during my conversation with DOT, I brought in an aerial photo, and I asked him, I said, would you consider allowing Mr. Petrosino to create a temporary construction vehicle-only access road? And after he saw the vehicle and he heard some of the things I had to say, DOT said they would very much consider it. And I've already shared this with Mr. Petrosino. I provided him the contact information. We just received a letter that Mr. Crotty just provided me here, and it says that pursuant of our phone conversation, is it okay if I read this, Mr. Dawkins? Pursuant to our phone conversation early today, Mr. Petrosino will make a good faith effort to apply to Mass DOT for a permit for the construction vehicles to access Pine Forest site from an existing emergency access that crosses his land at that location. Now, there is another access, and it's actually somewhere, yeah, somewhere right in here.
It's right in my yard.
And when I met with Andover today, we went through this. I know this is very high.
No, you don't. No, have you seen
No, I do.
My house is gonna get wrecked.
And we're gonna try to make this as easy on you as possible, but there's not a lot we can do.
Moving out of North Reading. I grew up in this freaking town. My husband was born here. You people don't care. Nobody cares. He can't. He runs it. He gets away whatever he wants to because he pays.
Money talks. Have you seen her house? Have you been
I
up there?
have been up there.
And you're gonna have one of those log trucks come through there? Rumbling up and down Flash
Well,
Road?
hold on, I understand. Listen, we don't like it either. We're trying to keep them off Flash Road. That's our goal. We don't have a choice, okay? He's building this site, whether we're involved in it or not, it's happening.
Somebody shoot him?
Why? Oh, I hope we don't have that on tape, but, Andover's approving the site, not the town of North Reading. I hope you understand that. We're being forced into this as much as you're being forced into it. I don't think there's a board member here that would stand up today and say they're happy with what's going on there. What we're trying to do is engage as much as we can to make a bad situation as better than it is right now. Okay? My hope is that we can get some kind of an access road off of 125 up in this area that brings them right onto this street and keeps them off of Flash Road and Roach Circle. Then I think that's a success. Now, I understand there's North Reading houses in this area, but we're not trying to bring this access road up near their house. Okay? Now, if you, as a neighborhood, don't want to have this access and you want them to use your road, Flash Road, then we'll just leave it alone. We'll stop our pursuit with DOT. Okay? But we're trying to come up with a solution that's better than using Flash Road.
I'd use Flash Road before
I need you to identify yourself, sir. First, we got to go through the chair. I'm sorry. It is the rules. I have to obey them, and I'm going to ask you to go through the chair, if you wouldn't mind, and then come up to the mic and identify yourself, and then, please.
Can I stand up?
If you please stand up and come to the microphone,
Well,
just
if you want, you
identify.
come right to the podium if you want, bud.
My name is Harry Hobby, 4 Flash Road. As far as using Flash Road compared to that exit, Flash Road would bother me more than would bother that exit. You just saw that little girl walk out, and there's another neighbor there with 2 or 3 small children. That's ridiculous. Plus, they're gonna plow all through that woods to get to that, and then turn around and come out. It's ridiculous. I'd rather see them use Flash Road, personally, for the sake of the other neighbors.
That's why we're here. We need the feedback.
Yes, sir? Please come up.
Why are we always doing stuff for him?
Al Walker, 11 Flash Road. Can I point out something about the layout of this place? There's another little road that always went in and out of there, and I actually used to go through there with my dirt bike to just get straight out to 125. It's actually about over, how do you stop this thing from blinking? It's about over here, actually, and it's a little track that goes out to 125, and I know that various trucks have been going in and out of there every so often, and it basically feeds directly into the site. So that would be a much better location for that sort of thing.
We agree, but unfortunately, it's a wetland area over there. And when you engineer the road, at least that's initial when looking at the paperwork. We're not ruling it out at this point, but there is a wetland area over there, right, Warren? I mean, I think you know that area well.
The wetland's back here, but there's a hill in between.
But he has to have some setbacks from it. If he's gonna construct an engineered road, he's gonna have some setbacks away from it. He can't have certain pitches, I believe some runoff off that temporary road into there. He's gotta be careful. So it's gonna be considered when DOT looks at it, but right now, you have to be careful with the wetlands.
Okay.
Believe me, that was the first place we talked about today.
It looked like a fairly dry track through there, back when I was going through there.
It is exciting.
No, and it's a great suggestion. We talked a lot about it today. Again, they have to, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a conservation person. But I'm told this is a heavily wetland area. And we have to be careful. The other issue too is there's a little bit of a hill, I believe, here. So to get off 125 and into the site, you know, they can't have this huge steep incline either. So they're gonna try to find something in here that is suitable between here and here to get on the site. But again, I'd like to hear from the residents. If you think this is a bad idea to have a construction vehicle only access road, I'd love to hear it, because I'd rather not work this hard to do it. If you're happy, I know you're not happy, but if you'd rather see it just continue to use Old Andover Road onto Flash Road, then...
We have a woman that wishes to speak. Come on up, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Kate Kittredge, and I live on Batchelder Avenue. I'm the abutter on the other side of the wetlands.
Okay.
And I'd just like to offer that my husband Walter is a wetlands botanist and could probably provide some service to the town as a volunteer and as a neighbor to help flag that area if you would like some additional information about how we could apply to DOT or whatever parties about creating access that would work for people. So we have those skills in the neighborhood and would be more than happy to provide them to help you.
And he didn't show up to the meeting, so
He couldn't make it, right. He's my husband, that's my right. You can put that on the minutes, so he knows it's official. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to point out, unfortunately, we don't really have a lot of leverage. This is Andover's property. We're trying to facilitate it from the sidelines and try to get Mr. Petrosino to work with Andover. Now, Andover's on board. They're going to work as hard as they can to get an access road onto this site. But again, I'd like to hear the feedback from the neighbors. If you don't want it, I'll bring your feedback back to Andover and let them know that, so they don't waste their time. Anyway.
Yeah. Please. Either a podium or just a single microphone.
I'm Janet Mayhew. I live at 8 Flash Road. We've lived there 6 years now. We moved there because of the country setting. It was quiet, wasn't noisy, reminded me of Maine, where I'm from. And now this is all going on. It's like it's tearing apart. It's going to tear apart our lifestyle. I mean, we have pets. I know, big deal to a lot of people. It's not going to be safe for anybody anymore. You can look out and see people walking up the road. They're not worried about their safety. And this all comes down to somebody that has more money than anybody else. And it's so wrong. And I have to say, and I'm not trying to be mean when I say this, but for you to say we need to hear you people speak, I think the fact that all these people have turned out for this meeting speaks for itself. The people are not happy.
I think what Mr. Prisco is getting at is, do you want us to continue pursuing this alternative to what is now will be where the construction vehicles come in through 28 down Burroughs Road, Lakeside Boulevard, and up into your neighborhood? I mean, that's...
I absolutely do not want them in our neighborhood. I absolutely do not.
And that's what...
And if I could do something to prevent it, I would, but I can't. And so that's why I'm up here speaking. But I don't know of anybody that's happy about it.
No, I think Mr.
And
Prisco...
a lot of instances, it's a matter of just throwing up your hands in the air because you feel like you're helpless. You can't do anything when you're up against somebody like this.
Unfortunately, because the land sits in Andover, our hands are pretty well tied at this point, too. Because, like I said...
Oh, I understand that,
Like I
but
said
I'm just
earlier,
saying
it's a
that-
question for us as to whether or not we're going to agree to provide water to those lots
I
or
wish you
not.
could say no.
Well, we could,
Don't
but
want to help him
then,
at all.
if we were to do that, he's still building.
Right.
He's going to do wells on each one of the lots, and then, you know, there's litigation against the town, which we're exposed for hundreds of thousands of dollars because we didn't provide him with water, where there's unfortunately a precedent in the community for providing water to lots or developments that sit outside of North Reading. So that's what we're wrestling with. And right now, we can try to work in an agreement where we can get as much as we can from him. Although it's not perfect and it's not what you folks want to hear, if we just decide not to give him anything, he goes forward with his litigation, and he does whatever he wants up there.
Right.
We're trying to get, although it may be little, trying to get something out of it to minimize the impact on your community.
I said make it as hard for him as possible.
And that's why
He
we
knows
came up
nobody
with...
wants it there.
You know, up till now, DOT's been very challenging. They wouldn't even consider putting in a temporary access road for the site. But I'm only bringing it forward because it was brought to me that the folks that live in this area, all through this area, all down in that Martins Pond area, don't want these heavy trucks coming through there. So our motivation was, let's find a solution that could try to minimize it.
Mhm.
We're never gonna get eliminated.
Right.
And that's all, and I didn't mean to upset anybody, but that was just an idea that they're gonna consider. And if again, doing it to help you. I mean, right now, we can leave it as it is. I just wanna make sure we're doing what we can, what little we can.
Yep.
Regina Riley, 2 Flash Road. Let me point out exactly where my home is.
You wanna use this?
This is my home. That is the access road. I've got about 30 feet,
Right.
if that, between my foundation and that access road.
We would never, that is not even being considered.
That's not being considered?
Not even one
That's how
bit.
it
That's, well, hold on, I think where the confusion may have come in.
No.
We, all
That's what it sounded
right,
like.
Michael, can I just say something?
Go
I
right
think
ahead.
where the confusion came in is we were talking about 2 separate access roads.
Yeah.
The one I started to talk about, what Michael was pointing to off of 125 originally, was a
Terrace.
Yes.
That's been approved.
well, that's an emergency access. Emergency purposes only.
Okay.
Not
then-
What-
construction.
Not,
Well-
okay? The other,
All right.
well, no, Michael, can I,
Yeah, go
Michael,
ahead.
please?
Right ahead.
When I first started to speak, what I was talking about is a separate access off of 125 for construction vehicles while construction was ongoing on those lots, being an alternative to what now he'll be able to do with construction vehicles. And when you had stepped out, what I explained was, right now, he'll be coming down 28 Burroughs Lakeside Boulevard into your neighborhood with construction vehicles on a daily basis for 2 to 3 years. So there's 2 separate access roads. One's an emergency after construction is complete for fire apparatus. And also, if, God forbid, the pond ever floods, it's a way out for you folks. The other access is a construction vehicle access, which would be another location off of 125. There's nothing we can do regarding that emergency access, but it's only emergency access, the one I think you're most concerned about, that's near your home.
Right.
Okay, does that help you?
Yeah, before, but I want to make sure, I wasn't very clear, it's very hard to explain, but, so you know where Ronan Terrace is?
Yeah, you're talking, Randon
We're talking about
Terrace
is-
says paved.
Yes, but they cannot use that for construction vehicles. That is not approved for them to do that.
Right.
It's only for emergency vehicles. What we're talking about is creating something on this lot line to get his vehicles on his site, not using Old Andover Road and Flash Road. And the discussion today with Andover, because they're trying to lead the effort with DOT, we looked mainly in here, but there's some wetlands. It's no one off the table. They thought the best area to come in is right around here in Lot 2 and Lot 1, right in here, for him to build an access road onto 125. So they come down 125, they come in this way, they do all their construction, they go home this way, not touching North Reading at all. That's the goal. That's what we're trying to achieve.
Stop.
Not a high probability, but we're trying to achieve that. No one's gonna touch Old Andover Road, no one's gonna choose, I know there's a little access there, I saw the chain there, that is not gonna be touched. It's not even being considered, no, please.
Yeah.
Or just,
Thank you.
Yes, Warren Pierce, Chairman of the Planning Board. The access that's been used in the past is going to be abandoned completely, the one through your yard. We're going to abandon that completely. We don't want anything else to come through there because that actually crosses his land as well as your land. And that's a problem for us going forward. In the process of designing and approving Rondon Terrace, we very specifically designed an access there that we could bring to the DOT that the town owns, town controls. There'll be a gate there, electronic gate, that Andover will be able to use for emergency access to get in and out. It's very similar to the ones you see on the Mass Pike, where the state police can go in and out just by pushing a button in their car. It's going to be the same exact kind of thing, so that emergency vehicles can use it without any restriction, but you wouldn't be able to just go through there. Now, in the event that the pond flooded and we had one of the emergencies we've had in the past, that gate would then be opened. It'll be controlled by the North Reading Police Department. It'll be maintained by the North Reading DPW. We have total control over it. We'll make sure that people can get in and out when they need to. And just for the record, the town of Andover was not in favor of this in any way whatsoever, and they battled against it valiantly because it stresses their services. It stresses their school services, their public safety services. It stresses them in very many ways. And so they really did their best to, they really didn't want to see this because of that, the stress that it puts on their services. And Mike's right, they really, but once they made their decision, they're standing by their decision, and they're trying to work with everybody to try to make this as painless as possible, trying to do the best they can, and they're supporting us, basically, in our attempts to find an alternative access that creates zero impact on our town, if possible. Because then in the future, if there is an emergency, they have instant access to that gate. If there's anything that they need to get for emergency services, they can get in and out through that gate. They have very quick access to their property. School buses and so forth, another issue. That's still going to be difficult for them. They're still going to have to travel the route with the school buses and general service situations, trash, whatever it is that they do. But they tried their best to make it work well.
One of the things, if I could,
Mr. Hobby, actually, sir, if I, please. No, I'll get to you next, all right?
I noticed the town of North Reading tried for a long, long time to get this emergency exit, which you now have, which is very good for the people up there to get out in the event of a flood or anything.
Yep.
Now you're talking about another exit. You couldn't get this one for years and years and years.
Yeah.
Now you're talking about another exit that a truck is going to poop out there at 8 or 9 miles an hour in the 70-mile-an-hour traffic. And you sure the state's going to do this for them?
I'm not sure.
And if they don't do it, what happens then? Then
Well,
you just...
We got to go with the original plan. I mean, we're trying to come up with a concept and an idea that DOT would they'd consider it, because we already talked to them. They said they would consider it. They haven't approved it. All right, we're probably a long way from that.
The 20 years we've been fighting
We
this
know.
because that land is locked land.
Yep, we
They couldn't
understand.
get in it, they couldn't get out of it.
But we want to fight for it, right? I mean, we do. We want to fight for you guys. We want to fight for all the neighbors up here to make it happen.
It's like a losing battle.
We're not going to give up.
But, Mike, why don't we explain, what if this access off of 125, excuse me, is not, the temporary access for construction purposes is not approved, the likely route for construction vehicles would be Burroughs Road, Lakeside Boulevard, Camo Road, Roach Circle, Flash.
No.
No, excuse me.
No Roach Circle.
No Roach, I'm sorry.
No, they come in, they go down Flash Road, they go into the site, and they go out the same way.
Well, that's right.
That's what,
That's right.
Right there.
Part of Roach Circle is Flash. But, yeah, Flash Road, in and out. Roach Circle connects to Flash.
right, but he's not supposed to
Right.
use Roach coming back, right, Warren? They're not
So-
supposed to make this turn.
But it's not Old Andover, Road.
They're not going to use Road Circle at all. We're going to, again, we only have a limited amount of legal right. That's a private road, okay? And so while we can put signs up and everything else, short of physically blocking it off, it's almost impossible. However, in the past, when we've done construction projects, we've required the developer, and this is something that we've put in a decision we have now. We require them to put signs up restricting the construction traffic from roads or from roadways that we do not want them on. And we hold the developer responsible for any violations of that. So we would try to keep them on the better improved roads. And for the record, we've also worked out, to some extent, a bond requirement that would do any repairs to damage done to the roads during the process of construction by these vehicles. It's a bond requirement that we're looking at putting into any final decision that goes forth.
Sir, you first.
Keith Young, 10 Flash Road. First of all, I want to thank you for actually addressing this, and Mr. Prisco, thank you for the work that you've done on this. I don't think any of the residents wants to see heavy construction vehicles going down Flash Road or coming in Burroughs and so forth. So I agree that a access road from 125 for construction vehicles is the best option out of a number of bad options. One of the things that I want to mention is that I've heard a number of times that Roach Circle will not be used for construction vehicles, yet there have already been a number of construction vehicles that have driven up Roach Circle. I showed Mr. Prisco a video of a large truck that drove up Roach Circle backed into the site and drove out Flash Road. The reason it had to come in that way is it was too large to turn around. There was no way for a large construction vehicle to come in any other way except through Roach Circle. I don't understand how the town is going to enforce large vehicles not coming through that way. It's a road I've watched. I use the road myself. I've watched truck after truck and cars, they all come up that way. It's just easier. We had discussions with the Planning Commission about traffic on that road, and it was determined that we couldn't do anything about it. It was recommended that signage would be put up, that the traffic would come out and take a right out of the way and would go in and out on Flash Road. I simply don't see that happening. We had discussions about sidewalks. The sidewalk, and Mr. Pierce can correct me if I'm wrong, but as of right now, there is no sidewalk being planned for the Flash Road improvements. This is just a bad situation, and I understand the position that the town of North Reading is in. I understand the position that the town of Andover was in. It's just too bad that one individual is lining his pocket at the expense of all of these good people who are here. Thank you.
I can't agree with you more than that. Go.
If you don't mind, I just want to address Mr. Young's comments. The settlement agreement that the board has negotiated with Mr. Petrosino states as follows. Petrosino will post signage to direct construction vehicles to the Pine Forest Park site through a designated route dictated by North Reading. The North Reading Planning Committee will provide this route within 2 weeks of the signing of the release. So Petrosino has already agreed as part of the settlement agreement that the control in terms of where trucks go and how they go is to the town officials. And certainly if someone violates that, that then becomes a police matter.
However, there is no signage currently, and there's been a number of trucks that have gone through.
Yeah, I think the issue is right now, there's no agreement in place. So, because there's no agreement, unfortunately...
And my understanding was that there would be no work done on the site except those of a homeowner might make, such as chainsaws or small bobcats, and yet we have large trucks and logging trucks coming through.
Sean, I can answer.
I don't expect logging trucks to be going to residential properties, and yet we have large logging trucks already coming through the property. It sounds like he started without an agreement.
I spoke with Andover today about that. I talked to the planner over there about this very subject, and she tried to talk to Mr. Petrosino. She did talk to the lawyers, her lawyers, and they did tell her that legally he can go in there and clear trees off his lot. What he's doing is legal. They cannot stop him. He cannot start any construction. He cannot put any buckets in the ground. He can't rip stumps out of the ground. He can't start doing any earth moving at all until this plan has been approved. Am I saying anything wrong that you have heard different?
And if I can direct the question to Mr. Pierce, is it normal for large logging trucks to come in when they're clearing land in residential areas?
Well, I would say my short answer would be yes. I mean, there are single lots that may have never been built in the past because of difficult access, and they could be heavily treed, in which case a large truck would be necessary to come in and remove the trees. Again, that's not... A legally registered vehicle has every right on the roads as much as yours does. So
I understand that.
You really can't prevent any legally registered vehicle from traveling on a legal road. And I think that's part of the problem. But as far as clearing trees, I mean, you could have a neighbor with 10 pine trees that he's afraid is going to fall on his house, and they would require a pretty good sized logging truck to take those tall pines down. So my short answer is yes, that would be legal.
Okay, thank you.
I'll come back, but, sir?
Bob's here, Traveled Way. Why was there a compromise, you guys said, your settlement? Why was that made without like the town being involved as a private thing?
The agreement is as a result of a lawsuit, and the lawsuit has been pending for a number of years. So the Board of Selectmen, through council, engaged in discussions, and so a draft agreement was put together. It has not been signed as of this date. Again, the board's reaction is to hear what the residents have to say, but it's up to the board to really settle out lawsuits. That's their job, and that's the town's job.
Why would you not maybe have them compromise and build 5 or 6 houses to cut down on the damage to the area?
Unfortunately, that's not the issue for us. That was the issue in Andover.
Right.
No, you could, I'm sure you could, if you're not, I'm sure you could have a input on that in the settlement.
That was the issue in Andover. Andover gave them approval for an 11-lot subdivision.
We don't get any input.
The only issue for us, if we didn't have this water issue, we wouldn't be a part of this whatsoever. If Andover had provided him with water.
What if you said you're not providing water unless he cuts the development in half?
Well, the issue then is this is what's going to happen. If we were to take that position, he's going to pursue litigation against us.
Maybe he'd compromise and do that. It's a possibility.
This is what's going to happen. He's got 11 lots right now. He's not going to give up 5 or 6 lots for that water, because what he's going to do is he's going to put wells in instead of getting a water line that comes up to that. So that's what's going to happen. And he's going to pursue the litigation against North Reading, which then puts us on the hook for the expense and the cost that he would incur for putting those wells in to those lots. And so that's why our exposure as a town is substantial. He's getting 11 lots, whether we give him water or don't give him water.
We're also here to try to protect the town. And what about, when this all first started, there was a lot of talk about long-term damage to the pond, the water system, the lawn runoffs. Have you guys even considered that anymore? Or is that just everybody, what he did is he wore everybody down to the point where they just can't take it anymore, and they just get tired, and he just keeps bringing in more money, more lawyers, and just keeps going. And you know, I remember 10 years ago we stood here. He was gonna bring in 800 dump truck loads full of fill because he wanted every house to have a water view. Are they still gonna have water views? Is he gonna cut down all the trees so every house is elevated? I mean, this is all long-term stuff that's not going to affect Andover. It's going to come right down into the town of North Reading. And it just seems like he wears out even people on the board. They're all gone now because when they first started, there were different people on the boards, and now he's worn them out and wins one over, wins another one over. It's just a long-term thing, and there's got to be some way you can protect these people in the neighborhood. Somehow you could compromise with them. You know, it's just...
Once he got his approval in Andover.
So what if the town, the cost to the town is what you're worried about on a lawsuit? A couple $100,000 is really not a big deal compared to everybody's, you know.
Well,
one more thing I want to say is Burroughs Road, that road's very narrow, and there's houses right on one of those right-hand corners there.
I agree.
One of those trucks blows a tire, he's going right through the houses.
I agree.
I mean, right through the houses.
Let me address what you said. We worry about a couple $100,000. Well, sure, we're worried about every dollar that we have to pay out to somebody. But in my opinion, Jason, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's much more substantial than that, potentially. But there again, it's an issue of water. He's going to get water. He's got his approval from Andover to do these 11 lots. He's going to build these 11 lots, whether we give him water or not.
I would say you still should be able to deny him access because of safety issues, at least. That's.
I wish we could. I wish we could.
Yeah, I think, Sean, I think you gotta understand that none of us like what's going on, and we have done everything, and previous boards have done as much as they could to prevent this from happening. And the moment he got approval from the planning board in Andover to go ahead,
DOT,
he's going ahead. And all that we can do now, and we've been working on it, and I think we've made some progress, is to try very hard to minimize the impact. Now, obviously, we can't satisfy you. That's pretty clear. But we can, as Mike has pointed out, perhaps give you some relief of what could happen in the worst-case scenario.
You were next, and then the lady in the pink.
Oh.
No, you go, you had it.
All right, I promise to behave.
No, don't worry, look, we all recognize it's very, very emotional.
I'm like, I just
I know
feel
how
like I'm
I'd
on
be.
the front line.
No, I understand.
And believe me,
So
I
don't worry
had this
about it.
man in my house and verbally assaulting me. I've had him assault me verbally in my bank.
That shouldn't happen.
I've had him threaten me. He is a menace, and he's not nice. If anybody deals with him and thinks he's a nice little old man, he is a very nasty little old man. And he's relentless, and he told me if he had his way, he would strip every tree out of there between all of us and 125 just to make our lives more miserable. And that's who we're all dealing with, and we've been dealing with for 10 years. I had to tell him to get off my property, or I was gonna call the cops and have a restraining order put on him, because he was coming at me, because I wouldn't keep my mouth shut in meetings. You have a bond agreement for any damages to the roadways. What about a bond agreement for any damages done to the existing homes in North Reading on these streets? Isn't he, and shouldn't he be liable for any damage that his vehicles and his construction cause to the existing homes that are in North Reading?
It's a private cause of action that, unfortunately, I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does, I think it's a private cause of action a homeowner would have against him personally. It's not something that the town could somehow insure against.
So what we would have to do is collectively hire a lawyer and.
Warren?
So basically, if he caused damage to your property in any way, either by one of his trucks or a hired truck or anybody else, it would be similar to as if you were in an accident.
Right.
Their insurance company would be responsible to repair or take care of the damage. The town has the ability to require bonding for the roads because the town owns the roads. So they have control over those, and so they have the ability to require bonding for any damage done to those. But the town doesn't own your house. So you then have to be, as in everything else, you have to be diligent, and if something happens that's a result of the whether it be one of his trucks or just somebody who lived next door went off the road in your front yard, you still have, you would still go to their insurance company, and that would be followed in a civil action, very much the way Mr. Delaney said. There's no way we could bond your house. So, but we can bond anything that belongs to the town between the state highway, which is Route 28, and his location.
Yeah.
Mr. Hubbard,
Just for point of interest.
Can I just,
Just for
can
point
I
of
just, can I
interest.
just call on the woman?
There's no stopping.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No stopping me. Just for point of interest, you mentioned if he didn't get this water, he'd have to put wells in. He's already got wells in there. He's already got wells in there, am I right?
If I may, the wells aren't the issue whatsoever. The
I'm
issues
just
are-
stating to him
the
because he didn't know there
issues-
were wells in there.
I know that.
There are wells in there.
But the wells are not the issue. The real issue is the fire protection.
I thought,
They have fire protection, they have to have huge cisterns with tens
are we
of
not here
thousands of
tonight over the
gallons
water?
of water stored underground.
Bobby, it's water in relation to enough pressure to put sprinklers in these homes. Because the fire suppression is one of the requirements. So there's two ways of doing it. One with these big cisterns that he has to build, which will give him enough capacity.
there you go, that's gonna cost him more money, am I right?
The capacity, and, yeah, the capacity, and then the ability to meet those
Yeah.
requirements, and/or water from the town of
So
North
he went
Reading.
to the expense to build these two big wells, was gonna have cisterns, now those are out the window.
No, they're not out the window yet.
Oh.
What
So that's a backup for him.
that is a backup, and that's his intention is if he doesn't get approval from this board for water, he's going to build the cisterns and move forward.
But he would sue us.
I just didn't realize that you didn't realize he didn't have wells in there, that's what I was bringing up.
But as Warren
You're right.
pointed out, it's the...
Thank you for the point of information. Appreciate that.
Missy Corelli, 37 Lakeside Boulevard. There were 51 conditions set down by Andover, and one of them was agreement by the North Reading Fire and Police to be first responders.
That's been modified to this extent. Because of the emergency access road that DOT has approved. Thank you for all the words everyone's helping with. Because of that approval, Andover will be the first responders. North Reading will not be the first responders.
So
into
they
that.
removed that condition?
Well, that was how the condition was set up, that
Mm-hmm.
they'd have, if DOT did not give the approval for that emergency access,
Mm-hmm.
he would have to get an agreement with North Reading, that North Reading would be the first responders. But because DOT has approved the emergency access, there is
You're
no
out
need
of
for that agreement. Andover will be a first responder.
I met with the fire chief today. Him and I sat face to face and went over this, and he is going to, him and his guys want to be the first responders. Those are his people. He's going to take full responsibility to get to them.
Okay.
I think we're here, and then we're back to Mr. Yen.
Al Walker, 11 Flash Road. One thing that kind of confuses me is on what grounds does someone litigate against the town about providing water or not providing water?
Unfortunately, there's a precedent that's been set in town in various pockets throughout the town where the town has provided water to maybe smaller some subdivisions, maybe single lots. Jason?
Yeah, I can address that if you want
Sure.
to.
Yeah.
Mr. Petrosino's.
Jason, you might want to use the mic so people at home can hear you.
Oh,
Use
sure. This one?
Either one.
Sure.
Yeah.
What podium?
One of the things that's been an issue in the litigation is Mr. Petrosino has sought water from North Reading, even though his development is in Andover. And one of the things that he's sort of focused on is, prior to this board being in place, going back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, North Reading has agreed to provide, and does provide, municipal water to neighboring municipalities in certain circumstances. Those homes are all paying customers, just like you are for your water. And one of the things he's sort of made a point of in the case, and one of the issues of the litigation has been that, well, you've done this in 10 or 12 or 15 other cases, so by not doing it to me, you're singling me out, you're violating my rights, all that kind of stuff. So that's been a point of contention throughout the past 3 years that we've been litigating this.
Which indicates that North Reading has this precedent of supporting lost colonies, and maybe that was not a good decision in the first place. I mean, it's been happening for years, right?
agree.
Wilmington and everything else.
And it
We
goes.
would be in much better footing if that hadn't occurred.
I mean, that's just one of several sort of administrative screw-ups, if you will, over time that have facilitated this project. And if you go back into some of the Andover history, there's a bunch of things that North Reading, Andover left a lot up to North Reading. And then North Reading, like your board and the appropriate departments never even heard about this. So the sort of putting our foot down, saying no, you can't do that, early on in the process never happened. Water was one of the things, and the municipal agreements were some of the other things.
Mm-hmm.
The approval on the North Reading side of paving Flash Road, which I believe Mr. Pierce was instrumental in getting the approval for, that should have never happened, right? Because that's going to involve a whole bunch of land taking along Flash Road on both sides. And it's going to be a huge disruptive nightmare. That could have been stopped. That could have given a lot of incentive to Andover to also disapprove the project. And I think administratively, that's where he just kind of went off the rails.
Mr. Messeri?
We also have to point out that there are subdivisions of homes in North Reading that get their water from other communities, similarly. So in other words, mutually, if there's, I can think of a place in Linfield where you have to go into Linfield to get to the North Reading homes. So in a similar situation.
Mr. Young? Michael,
I do.
Again, Keith Young, 10 Flash Road. So I understand that the discussion is about water in North Reading, providing water. My question is one of pressure. Has there been any look into what the water pressure will be? I can't flush the toilet and do dishes at the same time. And I don't know if the other people on Flash Road experience the same issues. Is there going to be any increase in water? We're talking about 11 homes, adding 11 homes to the water system on Flash Road. I'm concerned I won't be able to brush my teeth in the morning.
Mr. Prisco?
Mr. Pierce, you can actually.
Yeah, before any,
thanks for
there's a thing called powerful tests which need to be done. And and I believe we've had that there is a valid flow test in that area, but I don't recall exactly what it was. I'd have to check with the DPW for that. But the fact you have, water pressure issues in your individual home may not mean that there's no pressure in the line out front. It could mean you have an aged line,
And I understand that. That's why I'm asking other people on Flash Road experience the same thing.
So the answer quite clearly is this. In order for the water to be, in order for them to be able to have water in this subdivision, even if they got all the pipes and everything else, if it does not pass a flow test, in other words, if a hydrant in this subdivision will not produce an appropriate amount of water to do firefighting, would not be approved. So,
so we need to know when that test is going to happen so we can all turn on our faucets.
Yeah, I believe that I believe there's been a preliminary test of some kind already. But again, that would be a question we would direct to the water department. I believe the water department indicated that they could provide adequate flows there. So, I mean, but that's a question of simply a flow test. If there was not sufficient quantity or pressure of water at the juncture of that, then we couldn't move forward anyway because it just wouldn't pass.
Well, there's your out right there.
There's a very specific requirement.
But try to maybe shed some good light on this. Right now, I believe they're at the end of the line, correct?
Right.
So I believe when this is extended into Andover, you're no longer at the end of the line, so the water should have less sediment in it, possibly.
Yeah, you get.
You should get some improvements.
There's always a question about how long of a dead end can you have. Well, Elm Street's about a 5-mile dead end, and the people down the end of Elm Street have good water pressure. So there's no. As long as you have an adequate sized main in the street to carry the quantity of water that's used throughout that street, it works just fine. And we have an additional water towers now. We have probably one of the better water systems in the area in this town.
But I think, Warren, they're going to be putting in a return here, which we don't have today.
They'll be putting in most cases, when a subdivision of an appropriate length is built, we require a connection, a return, a back connection that allows us the water to circulate through. It does two things. It allows water to circulate through the subdivision to prevent sedimentation and brown water, if you will. But it also provides the opportunity, if there's a water main break on one side, to shut a valve off and still feed it from the other side. So, so that the residents don't lose water during the repair of a break, other than perhaps one or two people. So there's a plan to it, but it would not go forward if there's not appropriate pressure, period.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Just a quick thing.
Sure.
Al Walker again. I forgot to say before, if you're collecting votes for the construction access out toward 1 and 25, if they can do that safely, here's a yes vote for that, because it would kind of contain the whole problem north of us.
Hi, Barbara Jagler, 10 Flash Road. I just want to have people mindful of the wetlands up there, and having studies done for the wetlands would be a good idea. Mark off the wetlands areas. With the tree cutting and a little earth movement, there is sediment heading into the small ponding areas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Prisco?
I just have a couple things, and then we can wrap up. So I spent a lot of time with Andover today and their offices going over this, and we did talk about the wetlands. We talked about this construction project, and they are very sympathetic to you. Believe me, I know it's hard for you to believe, but they are. They have extended an offer, Mr. Pierce, to you, to the DPW director, to the town administrator, and any board members. They're going to have a pre-construction meeting on this project with Mr. Petrosino and his general contractors. They invited North Reading to be part of that. I plan to attend myself. Mr. Pierce, I would hope you would plan. Once I get that information, I will let you know. We will go out to this site with them and walk through this and how this is going to work. We will bring up the issues associated with, if we don't get the approval from DOT to put this temporary construction access road in, and we're going to make sure we manage it so we're not using the Roach Circle as we all agreed. We'll do all these kinds of things. There's 51 conditions on the Andover side. They're going to make sure they're 100% addressed. We're also going to obtain from Andover an agreement that we're going to work together. So when you do have issues, you're going to know who you can call. And vice versa, when we have issues, we know who to call. So hopefully you won't be suffering in silence on this project. The The last thing on it I want to talk about is this emergency access road. And again, reiterate, it's not near you. If anybody's not familiar where it is over there, you give me a call, I'll walk you through it, where it's going to be. We have to take the responsibility for that road because we need you folks to be able to use it in the event there is a flood. Okay, so we need this emergency access road as much as they need it. As much as I would wish the DOT would not approve it, we actually do need it for the safety of our own residents. Okay, so we're going to do all we can. I'm going to try everything I can to make this as painless as possible. I know that's probably not going to be 100% possible, but I'm doing everything I can. And if you don't know how to reach me, you can get my information on the website. You can give me a call on my home phone. And you feel free to give me a call if you have any problems or any stresses. Thank you.
Comment in deference to you, we know that it was a muddy mess and a mess. It was always bad weather when the pond flooded, so there was just a mess there. So many years ago, when we began this Randon Terrace, we realized that this was going to be a location that we could provide. So we pre-planned way ahead of time a layout there that would allow this, that would create a paved, safe access and egress for the people in the pond should another emergency occur. And it took a while to get the DOT to approve it, but they have, and now that's what we have.
Just quickly, I appreciate it. I mean, it was probably 6 months after I moved into my darling little home that we flooded, and then my entire pond neighbors were flying by my house, so on that access road. So I think all of us do appreciate the new access. We're very happy about that. We don't like being stranded and down there, you know, so that obviously is not an issue. My issue was, I thought I was under the misunderstanding that his construction vehicles, that was going to be the temporary construction entrance and exit, so.
And when the construction's over, it goes away.
But it is not going to be, nothing's going to happen with that existing old Andover to Route 125.
That is correct.
Graveled area.
Andover
he's not going to be able to bring his.
He cannot.
And if I see him,
He cannot.
I can call.
Already talked to him about it. Yes, absolutely.
Dial him out, because I will, because I'm there,
Yep.
and it's right
Andover
there.
made it very, very clear to me today. They walked me through it. They said he will not have access to that. He cannot use that area. They want to, like Mr. Pierce said, this is going to go away. Actually, I think it'd be better for you.
Right.
The gate's
Oh,
going
it'd
to
be
be taken
wonderful.
away. It's going to
I'm-
be cleaned up for you.
I'm just the one that put the chain there, so, you know, and the sawhorse that was
Yeah.
there. For
I'm more concerned for you.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
more
want
concerned for
anybody
you.
driving up and down.
When they're making this turn.
No,
Safe
listen.
now. We have a perfect one now.
Yeah, I'm
that's
more concerned for
good.
you when they're
Thanks.
making this turn with large vehicles around the front of your yard. That is gonna be concerning, especially when snow piles start to build up there. And if we have a winter like we did a couple years ago, God help us up there. It's gonna be very, very challenging. So we're gonna have to work together. And our DPW director, who couldn't be here today, I had a long discussion with him. He and his guys are gonna be very, very in tune to what's going on up here to make sure your safety isn't jeopardized.
Thank you.
I want to get up, but I understand that he is going to have the homeowners association take care of that new access?
No, sir.
On Granite Terrace, no?
The North Reading is gonna take care of
North Reading will
it.
take
Any
care of it.
expenses associated with the home association
Okay.
will fund North Reading's.
We're taking care of it, they're paying for it.
All right, well,
That's in the agreement.
And the other quick question is he gonna amount of time to build these 11 homes? He might keep us good, he might be, he might have told us
Pierce?
to pay for 10 years up there.
Basically, they, again, we're back to the town of Andover again. No more than this, this is the very center of Andover. What is Andover's rules on this? I'm not intimately familiar with it. We
I'll find
have some
out.
very specific timeframes in this town that if you don't begin to build or if you don't complete, then we begin to change the deal, we go after a clerk of the works, and if you don't complete the project, we'll take the bond and we'll finish it. And we've had to do that a few times. So we have very specific rules in this town about how this proceeds. Andover has a different set of rules, so how long it takes to build it is something that's up to them. Having said that, I do believe that if we see this taking an unusual amount of time, we can prevail upon the town of Andover to either get him moving or pull in a bond and finish it.
That's right.
And that's what we would do. That's what we do.
Can you put that stipulation in?
No, because town of Andover made those, have to make those stipulations, not us.
We're the
They're
ones that
using your
are-
roads.
One last question? One
Just
last-
in reference to the time frame, Randon Terrace, I understand, was built as a little cul-de-sac and it's owned, I believe, by Benevento?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that looks like an atomic bomb went off there and then they threw a little hot top and it's been like that for over 3 years. So what kind of a time frame are we looking at? There's no foundations, there's nothing there.
We were basically waiting to get our approval so that we can, because we don't want to make any access to that highway without a gate and without some kind of controls. So we're kind of working our way towards the completion of that. Once we get all our approvals and we have the agreement for the electronic gate and all those things, everything from the DOT, then we'll get them to finish that. But to do that preliminarily would invite people to drive through there. Why would we do that? That would not be a good idea.
I thank you all for coming. We understand the issue. We're going to do our best to minimize the impact. Can't eliminate it, but we're going to do our best to minimize it. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're still in session, right? Yeah.
We are.
We're going to talk about okay. Can I? You have, well, I have the road. I was after get the bond for the lawn.
We're not going to.
Okay, so we can wait on that.
We're going to look on it. I want to work with you.
It's a great idea.
We really want that bond.
Let's get the
Thank you.
Where is Joe?
Mr. Jones just went to wake him up. Do you want to leave his information with Michael? Do you want to leave your husband's information with Michael?
Board members, do you have any questions for Jason?
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Jason.
Appreciate it.
The question I have, Jason, is this letter that we got,
Steve, we're still, we're just.
Can that be incorporated as part of our subdivision agreement? Reference,
I don't think we need to, honestly, because
Oh, no, it's just a better road. It's coffee. Good night.
Sean, I don't think there's Dropbox on there, on that computer, so.
I know you're not, you don't want
I
to
could.
touch
How's that on?
I don't, you see it?
It's right there, yeah, I do.
212, there it is, okay. I'm looking at it, I didn't see it. Good.
What's this?
Jason dropped that off. No, do whatever you want, but said Jason wanted to drop that off the board. I had only the photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy.
Sean, did we get a tax rate in? Like, do we know what the tax rate's gonna be? I didn't see it in my bank packet. It's not in here either.
It's not in here?
No, it's nowhere. No increase, no, we don't have anything.
Where is she?
She's right there.
Right there. She's here.
I went through it, I'm like.
This will be the first time we see it. All right, we're all set?
I have not seen anything.
Sorry. We're going to continue with our meeting. Thank you. We're going to move to item 7 on the agenda. Originally scheduled for 8 p.m. Public hearing, tax rate setting, and tax classification. Please, can I have your attention?
Okay.
Mr.
Mike.
Hi, guys.
It's in the.
Good night, Jason. Good night.
Mr. Bodie,
Information.
notice of public hearing?
We determine what it is based on decisions.
Notice of public hearing, tax rate setting and tax classification. The Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing in room 14 at Town Hall, 235 North Street, on November 19th, 2012, at 8 p.m. prior to making a policy recommendation regarding the tax rate for fiscal year 2013, determining what ratio of tax burden will be borne by residential versus commercial industrial property for fiscal year 2013, and determine if there will be a residential or commercial exemption. The Board of Selectmen will take input from the public before voting on the above questions. Sean Delaney, Chairman, North Reading Board of Selectmen.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I would like the minutes of record to show that I will not be participating in the discussion and deliberations of the board in this particular matter. I've been advised by the council in years past that because I have a relative who owns a piece of commercial property in North Reading, it may pose a potential conflict of interest based upon my position of sitting on the board. So I will be recusing myself from any discussions and deliberations, and however, reserve my right as a citizen to participate in the public input session should I so desire.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. O'Leary.
Yep.
Okay.
I just recused myself.
We have our
I just said I
Ms.
recused.
Carboni, our town assessor.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
How is everyone?
Excellent. How are you?
Very good. I do have some packets. Do you guys have them in your iPads, or you want hard copies?
I'll take them. No, you can't put it in the iPad at this point.
Thank you.
We don't have this.
No, we
what
have
she's handing out is not in our packet?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the question.
Is in the documented, yeah, November 19th.
I have it.
There's extras, if anyone from the public would like one. Yep. Thank you, Joe. What I would like to do is start where we left off 2 weeks ago and go back to the spreadsheet on the commercial and the industrial. Mike, did you get a chance to put that in your computer by any chance? The revised without the personal property?
I just kept what you did.
Oh, okay.
Why don't we, if we could, for the benefit of the public that's here and for those watching at home, maybe we can start by just recapping what we had discussed 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
So everyone can at least get on the same page as to where we are.
What we had done 2 weeks ago was we had done an analysis on where the residential properties have been going and where the commercial, industrial, and personal properties have been going and what the difference was. Because in a bedroom community such as North Reading, you have more of an inventory on your residential home. So you're always going to see that value of your residential homes climb a lot faster than you would on your commercial and industrial. In this spreadsheet that we went over last 2 weeks ago, it clearly shows, and with the number of parcels, you can see the growth rate on the residential is significantly higher than it is on the commercial and industrial. What we did was we removed the personal property values and accounts out of there so that it was strictly just your commercial property values, structures, and your industrial property values. And what that shows is an increase with the exception of 1 year, I believe. You can actually find this page. It's on the very last page of your packet. Along with this sheet, you'll also see the tax rates. What we added was in the column where it says C&I values over to the right, you can see where the commercial and industrial singularly have gone up, but they do not go up at the same percentage rate as the residential median value. And again, that's a lot due to the inventory of what you have on residential versus your C&I or commercial and industrial. And the other topic that we discussed 2 weeks ago was the fact that the property owners for commercial and industrial for the past 3 years have been receiving what's called income and expense statements. For those of you starting this year for fiscal year 13, if they were not returned, there is going to be a charge for that. It's a $250 charge, and that's Mass General Law that does allow us to put that on there. And the reason that we're asking for the income and expense information, what that gives us is not only your rental rates, so that we have good data in here on our commercial and industrial properties, but also your expenses. If we hear a property tax owner say, well, it's owner occupied, you still have expenses. You still plow snow. You still have trash hauling. You still have expenses that you incur on that property. So even if we don't get an actual rental rate from a owner-occupied property, we still can use that and extract the expenses. So I did want to just make that public again tonight. So with this being said, the far left column, you can see when we added in the personal property, it did really misconstrue the numbers as far as what the median values were for commercial and industrial. So we extracted that out. Does anyone have any questions?
Mr. Yule?
Yes, Jeff Yule, 427 Park Street.
Jeff, can I ask you?
Yes, we want to go again, Jeff Yule, 427 Park Street. On the $250 late fee, is that what it's called?
It's actually a lien. It will be on the tax bill.
You noted that you allowed by Mass General Law. Does that mean you are required, or you can, or is that your option?
It's an option by the town.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Prisco?
Maybe we just summarize. We met 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, I think it was about 2 weeks.
Yeah, Ms. Carboni's talking about in this column right here, we did include the personal property in there as well. So when you looked at year 2003 to 2012, the difference was only 7.2%.
Right.
When you look at this difference now, it's only about 15% increase over the 10-year period. When you look at the residential side, it's well over 32% difference in valuation. So we've seen increases over 32% on the residential, and in the commercial, 15%. And we do believe, at least this is one of the things I would ask for Deb to bring up. In this income and expense form that the commercial sectors are required, you can see the responses. It hasn't been very good. 41% in 2011, 53% for 2012. I don't particularly think that this $250 lien is going to make any difference. I really don't.
And there were valid points made on that. I do want to just interrupt you for 1 second. We're only showing 2011, 2012 as the income and expense being sent out, where that's not entirely true, because when you have a revaluation, which we would have had a revaluation in 2008 and 2004, 5. That's a mandate, that's a state mandate for them to go out. I just didn't know where they were in my office, and for me to spend all kinds of hours trying to find it and figure out a percentage, I didn't think that was very worthy of my time.
2011 and 2012.
There's a significant increase.
Speaks volumes. We're only getting about half of the commercial industrial property owners who are submitting their financial statements to the town.
Absolutely.
We can't allow it to continue any further. $250 is not going to be high enough for them to comply. So essentially, 2 weeks ago, we instructed the assessor to go out to assess those properties to the highest maximum value for the use for which they are being currently used as. So
Those properties that don't submit.
Their financials on a timely basis.
And that starts in fiscal 14, July 1st of 2013.
And
It's okay. Mr. Briscoe.
no, at the last meeting, we did talk a lot about fairness. You know, are these percentage of increases that you've seen on the residential side versus the commercial and industrial side, is it really fair? I got the sense from the board, when you look at the data, it really isn't fair. But we are still all in agreement that a single tax rate for this town is probably the best way forward for now. But we should still have some kind of a conversation about fairness. Is this really fair? And I don't think we ever really came to a conclusion on that.
Well, we didn't come to a conclusion because the data we were looking at
Right.
incorporated the personal property tax
Right.
into the C&I portion of that, so we weren't comparing really apples to
Yeah.
apples, nor are we still comparing
That's why
apples to apples.
I think we should still.
As
And
we're
I
comparing-
actually,
Because our community is 90% residential, so, but I do have an issue with
the
commercial and
return,
property, the returns, as I
Right.
previously stated. I think if those returns come in, we will see a natural increase in those property values on the commercial and industrial side. And I think that will even out or make this process fair in terms of taxation on property owners, whether it be residential, commercial, industrial. It's a fairer process. Mr. Messeri.
You can't compare the two together. Supply and demand drives value. And you walk around town, there's more, percentage-wise, more businesses unoccupied than there are homes.
that's right. And that's the
So,
percentage increase
You have to
that I
take that
keep
into
talking.
account too. You just can't make a one-for-one comparison.
No, that's what I'm saying, but if you're only getting 50% of the commercial and
Well,
industrial
no,
submitting
I
their
understand,
financials,
I understand your part, yeah.
it makes it very difficult to her to
Right.
give the proper assessment.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to point.
I don't dispute that piece of it.
That's all we're trying to make.
No, I'm talking about the fairness issue. The fairness issue with respect to them not providing information versus the fact that it should be the same percentage. It'll never be.
No,
Correct.
I would,
No,
no one
okay.
ever argue with that.
Misunderstood.
No, it won't be.
No.
On the commercial and industrial values, when I extracted out the personal property, I actually came up with 19% positive increase. So I believe I had kind of guessed that night at 12. So seeing
I didn't come up with 19. How did you come up with 19?
just figuring out the percentage.
If you
Pluses
just
and-
do the simple math, you take your 2003 number versus your 2012 number,
Oh,
it's
I
15.
have 2013 in there too.
Well, we don't have that
Right,
information.
right, and you know, it should be on your sheet. I don't know why it didn't come over, but whatever. For this purpose anyway, nothing certified for 13, so that's where we're at.
No, she just said it's not there.
It's on the handout.
Oh, I don't, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
the
have
last
handout.
sheet.
Oh, we don't have the handout then. I guess we're gonna need the handout. Because what we have in our
It's gonna
packet, I
go
thought was
away.
in the handout. So Sean, what we have here in our Dropbox is not what you have in your hand.
Just this last page
This last
does
page.
not include 2013. That's the only difference.
Okay.
Mm. But that was sent too.
What's the tax rate for 2013?
Estimated?
It's not there.
We
Estimated.
It's there. It's there.
It's
The estimate?
estimated.
Yeah.
It's there.
Well, it's complete.
Can I get,
So-
do you have an extra copy?
Let her complete.
Oh, all right.
Let her complete what she said. So based upon your analysis between 2003, 2013.
Right, looking at the
commercial-
current data, it's 19% positive. So there is continuing growth. It's not at the same rate. And Bob's absolutely correct. You're in a bedroom community, and if you look at the number of parcels tell you the demand is for the subdivision and the single families as opposed to your commercial and industrial. And that's
But what is
clear.
the residential, since you calculated in for the commercial side, what is it for the residential side when you include in 2013? It's got to be higher than 32%, since residential valuations went up and commercials went down last year.
I didn't calculate that, Mike. I was focusing on there. But the single-family household went from 350, 100 from 2012 to 350 to 400 for FY13. So if you added in 2%, you're looking at 34. 34.2, right? Just doing simple math. 32.67. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on the sheet?
You can continue. Thank you.
Okay. The classification hearing, unfortunately, the board does have to take votes on the individual items. So I do have to read it, and you do have to take a vote, and then we'll go over any questions afterwards. During the state mandated classification hearing, the Board of Selectmen must vote on the following in order to establish a tax rate. Open space discount. Open space is land maintained in an open or natural condition which contributes significantly to the benefit and enjoyment of the public, which is not subject to permanent conservation restriction, held for production of income, taxable under the provisions of Chapter 61, which is forest land, Chapter 61, which is farmland, or Chapter 61B, which is recreation land. The Board of Assessors has determined North Reading does not have any classified open space land, but you still have to take a vote on it. Do you want to vote at the end or individually?
We can do it. Why don't we do it now?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I suggest that you might want to get all the information out through the public hearing, and then ask for input through the public hearing process, close the debate, and the board take the votes.
You can do it either way.
Good idea.
My guess is you want your input before you vote.
The next one is a residential exemption. The Board of Selectmen may adopt an exemption up to 20% to shift the residential class tax burden from the lower assessed properties that are the principal residence of the taxpayer to the higher assessed properties and properties that are not the principal residence of a taxpayer. What I did was I put in what's really our LA4 that is certified by the DOR. This just breaks it down for your class so that you can see where the percentage rates lie. And the class that we would be looking at on this would be the residential class, and the number of parcels is 5,325. Moving over to the small commercial exemption.
Deb, what was the value?
What was that?
So the value you said is 412,587?
No, the residential class, which is class 1.
Yeah.
Hold on. Is 2,197,024,375.
And I meant the average, I'm sorry.
Oh, the average
Yeah, did I hear you
household?
say that? I'm sorry, I thought
I did give
Okay.
you, the average household for 13 is 452,400. I have that on another cheat sheet over here, Michael. Going off memory.
And we were around 451 last.
We were exactly 450,100 for FY12. So that shows you right there too, the increase in the residential values is due to the residential houses in the market. Okay, the small commercial exemption works very similar to the residential exemption, only it would be on the commercial property. The Board of Selectmen may adopt an exemption up to 10% to shift the commercial class tax burden from eligible parcels to ineligible parcels. Eligible parcels must have a valuation of less than 1 million and be owned by a business that employs fewer than 10 employees as certified by the Department of Workforce Development or Division of Unemployment Assistance. The mechanics of the small commercial exemption are very similar to the residential. I do receive a report from the Division of Unemployment every year, and I do go through that. And there were 9 that had potential of qualifying for this. To identify if those 9 out of 222 parcels, if you add in industrial, you're talking 307 parcels. They're condos, a couple of them, and the other ones were just a couple of small ones here on Main Street. But I still have to let you know that. Classification. The Board of Selectmen may shift the town's tax burden from the residential class to the commercial, industrial, and personal property classes, as long as the shift does not exceed the minimum residential factor. The North Reading's minimum residential factor is 87.10. That means that the residential class is bearing 87.1% of the tax that is obtained. This means that no more than 12.9 of the residential class burden can be shifted to the commercial, industrial, and personal property. So if you were to act on shifting a rate, the maximum amount that you can shift is 1.5. That's the maximum. The following pages contain information on the impact of any shift of the tax burden. This page is just done up with shifts of if you maintain a single tax rate. The estimated tax rate currently, this is not a certified tax rate, is $16.04. Don't shoot the messenger. If you were to shift 10%, and then the next column is if you were to shift 1.25, and then of course the maximum at 150. I don't know, do you guys want me to go through this whole thing? Everyone has it in their packet. Do you want me to go through it and read the numbers, or?
No, I'm okay. I think you should
Okay.
leave it up to them if they have a question. Well, obviously, they should ask. But just make sure I'm clear, Mr. Chairman, if that's okay.
Mr. Prisco.
So the tax rate, estimated tax rate, you said is $16.04?
Estimated tax rate.
For
yes.
FY 2000?
413.
413, okay.
Yes. Are there any questions so far?
Ask.
Is that inclusive of the override, the school?
That
Of
is,
course.
that's
Yes,
all
it
part
has
of
to
it.
be.
I hope so.
Yeah. Went from 1438 to that. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
It's a valid question.
it's a very good question.
Yes, it is. With that being said, that is all there is to classification. Now it's up to the Board of Selectmen to take their votes. You have to take your vote on the open space, whether you want to have the open space exemption.
I think in the past, we've asked the Board of Assessors to make a recommendation. You prepared to do that?
Absolutely. The Board of Assessors, on behalf of my board, is in favor of recommending a single tax rate for fiscal 13, actual tax bill.
And what about any changes in some of the other items?
Future years?
No.
No.
The other exemptions that are possible.
The other exemptions, the open space, we don't have any that qualify for that, so that's pretty clear cut. The residential exemption, no, because the majority of your homes, really, if you break down that 5,325 homes, the majority are your larger homes. They're already the higher taxpayers. They're already paying $11,000, $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 in taxes. As far as the commercial exemption, there's 9 properties out of 307 that have potential of qualifying. So the recommendation on any of the exemptions would be no also at this time for fiscal year 13.
Thank you. Mr. Hall?
I'm not sure if does this
Mark?
affect 61A property?
Coming up.
Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. If the board was to shift the rate, yes, your 61A property falls under class 3, which is your commercial property. It would fall under the commercial tax rate if they were to shift, yes.
So that rate would change for 61A people?
That's correct. Yes.
And isn't that mandated by the state, how that's handled? Isn't that a state?
What the state does is they send me out what's called the farm values every year, which is done out in UMass Amherst. And those farm values come in, and I get farm values for non-productive land, for crops, for wetlands, they break it all down and tell me what it is per acre. So I put on a fair market value for what our values are currently, and then I have to reduce it by whatever the Department of Revenue is sending me from the Farm Advisory Committee. But it still falls under class 3, which is your commercial property.
So the way it's always worked is my property is valued on one house lot. It's a large parcel, but it's one house lot under 61A, which we qualify for.
Correct.
So how's that going to affect me?
How that it would have to be broken out. What would happen is your property right now, because your farmed property, let's kind of keep it in simple ways. The property that you farm has its own landline, which has its own value. So that landline would be subject to the commercial rate. But your house, which I put a prime lot value on because it's an improved residential lot, would stay with the residential tax rate. Does that make sense?
Well, it sounds like the 61A benefits that I've had over the years is going away. Basically, going to be valued. The 5-acre parcel that we farm is going to be turned into a full evaluation property. In other words, won't be valued at one whole lot. It's going to be kind of separated into two things, one lot and one.
No.
Okay.
It really.
There has been no change, correct? There's been no change.
No.
Okay.
No.
You're scaring me because it sounds like there is a change, but.
No. You asked if there was a rate change, would it affect your chapter property?
Bottom line
And I
change is
said
what I'm talking
yes,
about, yeah.
because it falls under class 3, which is commercial property. But when it came down to your tax bill, you still have a residential home with a residential lot. That would be taxed at the residential lot line, at the residential value. Then you have a whole, and you currently have this, a separate land line that has your 5 acres that you farm that would be controlled by the commercial rate. So it would only be that 5-acre value, and whatever the Farm Advisory Committee tells me from the DOR that value is what would be taxed at that rate.
So
you see what I'm saying? It's
if
not.
I can help, if I can help. So what happens?
Chooses the classified.
Right, right,
But if they stick with one rate, everything stays the same.
right. So there's no change in the way it's valued.
Okay. I just promote any 61A land, farmland that we have left in town. I think it's even though it's not a direct benefit, it's indirect benefit to have open space. And I just told you earlier, it's almost not worth it to me to go, do the 61A program, which we've done all ever since the Uptons have been in my house. They've all taken advantage of it. But I guess now I'm learning that it might be beneficial. So every little bit helps to keep from developing land that doesn't have to be developed. That's what I like to say about that. So,
Thank you. Mr. Yule?
Hi, Jeff Yule, again, 427 Park Street. Are you recommending a 2.5% levy increase on taxes? Is that what I understood by the question by Mr. Messeri?
No, but I was, the budget that was passed at town meeting reflects taxing to the levy limit. So you have a levy, and the levy limit is a function of 2.5% plus new growth. What we're talking about here is, do we want to change classifications? If not, if we leave everything exactly the way it's been from last year, the tax rate is what you see on that piece of paper.
Okay, thank you.
It's not what I see because we have the wrong page, but that's all right.
How do you have the
I mean, we only have, we have last year's.
We have last year's stuff, we don't have what you're presenting.
But we'll deal with it later. Right now, we have it in hard copy, it's fine, so we can continue.
Yeah.
No, I
We're
mean,
passing
yes,
it
we're
around.
passing it.
Are there any more hard copies out there? Extras? No, it's okay.
We can
Oh,
share.
you should be looking at this page.
Anyone else from the public like to ask a
That was all
question,
sent over in
have
the
input?
packet. That's not the right page.
Mr. Yule again?
I'm sorry. Is it the input you're asking on the tax increase or just what she's just talking about?
This is regarding tax rate setting, so whatever comment you may have that may apply, feel free.
Jeff, the expenditures based on the budget, plus the override, all the overrides that are still outstanding debt. In other words, the exempt debt is all part of what has to be raised. So the tax rate is determined by what has to be raised based on the parameters about how we want to distribute who pays what.
Okay. Mr. Chairman and Selectmen and Mr. Balikonis, I'm here as a citizen, and I represent no one but myself, though I may be reflecting the majority of many people in the community. My current concern is the tax rate. President Obama has set a steep tax target of $1.6 trillion in tax revenue this year, which is double what his request was in 2011. The mortgage interest rate deduction is possibly going to disappear. These are tax increases on us all from a federal level. Massachusetts wants to widen the tuition breaks for the students, for illegal immigrants in Massachusetts, which is an expansion of a program that's already in place, which in essence will increase state costs, will increase the need for more taxes, which will mean less money for many of us in the middle class. That's probably many of us here in this audience, people listening as well. Governor DeVal Patrick also wants to have a tax hike on the for roads and infrastructure. That becomes another tax increase. And if he's going to do that state tax increase as he's looking for the state highway construction, I think maybe hopefully we can look at something for Route 28 for some expansion there and take advantage of that. North Reading has a new middle school. That's a significant 25-year tax increase for the residents of North Reading. So there's a pattern here, and it's called tax, tax, and tax. So I'm at this point here as a citizen saying that it's time to back off and give us a break. I implore you not to raise the real estate tax, the 2.5% levy this year. There are just too many seniors who are being hammered. There are too many businesses with too few customers. There are too many homeowners barely hanging on to their homes. Families are hurting. There are just too many people without jobs to pay for the barrage of tax increases that they are being confronted at this time. I'd like to see if you can throw this into your mix of thoughts, joining with other towns to go to the state and demand our money back for local use, because the towns need it probably more than the state, and towns need it more than the federal government. If you can represent us in that way, that would be very helpful. You are asking us to help with tax increases, but it's we who need your help at this time, because it's very tough for the community at large, for most people in the community. So, thank you, and I just wanted to share that thought.
Thank you, Mr. Yule. Anyone else? No? Okay. Close, Mr. O'Leary?
Just as a point of clarification, in this chart up here, and what was in the handout included Steve O'Leary, 15 Mead Road. In the handout includes 2013. And just in relation to the percentage of increase from residential properties and commercial industrial properties, there's no doubt from 2003 to 2013 is in excess of 32% for the residential and approximately 15% for commercial industrial. But if you look at the chart, and where most of it occurred was it was the reval year in 2005. Over 28%, 28.6% of the increase in residential properties took place between 2003 and 2005. Since that time, it's only been, about 4%, 3 or 4%. Whereas the commercial industrial property valuations have been fairly steady all the way through. So the effects of the reval in that year, 2005, was significant and substantial. And that's where the bulk of the residential increases took place. The rest of it has been relatively modest, with the ups and downs, the heights being in 2008 for the residential, 2009 for the commercial properties as far as the height of the market. And since that time, there's been a decrease of 10% in values from 2008 to today on residential, and about a 3.5% on the commercial industrial. So we just want to keep it in perspective. It's easy to say, we've had a 33% increase, over 10 years, but 28, almost 29% of that took place over a 2-year period 8 years ago. So we just need to keep it in proper perspective. And once again, I would urge the board to maintain a single tax rate. I think it's best for economic growth, and given the time period right now, I think it's important that the board consider doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
To
O'Leary.
add comment to that, there was also 54 new residential homes built in that reval year also.
Right, of which, and those 54 homes were not modest ranches or capes.
Okay. I think at this time I'll close the public hearing. All right. To the vote. Do a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Motion to close. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, 1 abstention. Now you have the motions, Mr. Fode, and the various exemptions and the tax rate.
I do. Mr. Chairman, I move to establish a tax classification factor of 1.0.
Have a motion?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Mr.
I'm
Bo?
sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I don't have the information, I didn't get a handout, I just have to ask a couple more questions. You know, what we've been talking about, at least the last meeting, it's okay, I don't need to ask my question. We've been using the median property value. Do you have those with you by any chance?
Yes. I'm pretty sure I grabbed them. I did. Oh, you want to see them?
I want to hear it, if you could.
Well, that would be, without putting them on spreadsheet, like that's kind of hard to do. Here's how I did it.
Okay.
What I did was I took the LA4s, and the LA4s are the certified values per class. Here's our class 1, here's our class 3, here's our class 4.
I understand that.
And then our parcel counts.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I came up with the medians.
So the median for a residential is, here you have the average value, but I want the median.
Commercial.
Okay, you don't have it for the residential?
This is what I did for the revised over there. I didn't bring what I had done over there. I mean, I can show you what I did.
No, I just wanted to know what the median was, that's all.
Oh.
That's all,
on-
the residential.
For,
I'm sorry, what is?
452.4.
are you talking for 13?
Yes,
Oh, I thought you wanted
It's
to know
452
for the sheet.
and then last year it was.
450, 100.
450,
450, 100.
Thank you.
Yep.
I don't have any more questions.
Okay. On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. 4, 0, 1 abstention. I got you, Steve. Mr. Fogel?
Mr. Chairman, I move not to establish a residential exemption.
On the motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4, 0, 1 abstention.
Mr. Chairman, I move not to establish a commercial exemption.
On the motion?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
4, 0, 1 abstention.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend the fiscal year 2013 property tax levy at $40,459,231.78, which is $15,523.22 less than the levy limit.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4, 0, 1 abstention.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend to the Board of Assessors that the fiscal year 2013 tax rate be set at $16.04 per $1,000 of valuation.
A motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Prisco. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
4, 0, 1 abstention.
Can we just say that 1604 potential rate is uncertified by the DOR?
We have to change
I
the
just
motion.
want to say it again. It's not certified yet, so you just say it again.
It's not certified.
Thank you.
by the DOR.
It's a recommendation.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Deb, for all your work.
Thank you. Mike, I thought you were talking about.
No, I'm sorry, I thought, I had everything else, I just didn't have the residential, and I know Mr. Fode had said it earlier, but I just couldn't hear it.
452.
Got it. Yes. Well, ask Mr. Fode. Joe?
Because I know I
It's, I'm sure.
I think it goes in the minutes, though.
2012.
I can read comment. This
Looks like it was 2012.
And then the other sheet just didn't have 2013.
Can we just get that updated on our Dropbox? Get that one taken off and put the new one on? That would be- Yeah, no, that's okay. Yep, that's fine.
Sure.
This 1438 on Thursday, we didn't have the uncertified estimated rate, that just came out today. But these numbers are all for 13.
That's fine, but it's not
Yeah.
what's in there. You know what I mean? It's not right.
Now,
Oh, no.
No, it should have been right in our packet.
Give it to us.
Period.
No excuses,
Yep.
period.
Yeah, I have to tell you, it was.
All right. Thank you, by the way.
you're welcome.
Thanks.
Can you assist me with the,
Sure, absolutely.
Hey, can you turn the lights on out here? It's getting rather dark.
Oh, you
want
going back on again.
You may want to
I
stay
hear
in the
you
dark.
do good
work in the
Trying
dark.
to save money.
They're coming back up. Like, if you don't mind, just, can you sit there and, as I go through it, just dial through it?
I'll drive, no problem.
You may want to move that way, though. They need to see me, not you, at the back of your head.
True.
Okay. I'd like to move on to item 8 on our agenda, which will be a school construction project update. And Mr. Prisco is assisting me.
Oh, it's off the agenda. That item was removed.
You're looking at the original. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Oh, okay.
Turn it into a slide. Mike.
The view?
Mike,
Sir?
go to full screen slide. Guess it's an old version.
Yeah.
But it's got to be there. There you go.
Got it.
The Secondary School Building Committee, Financial Planning Team, the School Committee, and the Board of Selectmen would like to give the public an update on the school building project. So we begin at what's been done so far. As everyone has probably heard or read, the architect, Doran Whittier, their firm has been on board for some time. The town and school has an owner's project manager. It's a firm of PMA. And within the last 6 months, the firm of Gilbane and Company has been on board as the construction manager. What has been physically done up at the site of what will be the new high school and renovated middle school, the modular classrooms have been relocated over the summer at the middle school. A number of trees have been cleared. The new parking lot was put in place up at the middle school, and the new traffic pattern the temporary traffic pattern for parent drop-off and bus drop-off has been put in place. The construction team, and when I say that, talking about the architect, the project manager, and construction managers have met with the CPC, Conservation Committee, and ZBA. They've met with some of those groups on multiple occasions. The construction design documents are at 60% complete as we sit here this evening. Let me explain a little bit. When the project was approved, what we had as part of the process through MSBA were schematic design documents were complete. So at this point, we've moved forward. Construction documents at 60% complete means the design of the construction of the building has moved forward to 60%. The next milestone will be 90% next month. In January, the construction documents will be 100% complete. As some of you probably had attended or read about, heard about, groundbreaking ceremony took place on November 3rd, just a couple of weeks ago. As of this date, approximately $6 million have been expended. The status, as we sit here this evening, is that the Secondary School Building Committee has worked very closely with the professionals to prepare early release packages that include early release package for the site work, the concrete work, and the steel work. Those three packages total about 20% of the overall project budget. As the construction documents have evolved, specific line items of the project budget have exceeded initial cost estimates. There are various cost drivers that account for that increase. Primarily breaks down into these categories: site development issues that have arisen, which include unsuitable soils in some of the areas, mainly the site where the foundation to the new high school will go. EPA and DEP regulations have contributed to cost estimate increases. Essentially what has happened is DEP and EPA is requiring the design of stormwater facilities to handle a 100-year storm. There's been an increase in steel, and let me explain, because I know there's probably people that are watching or will read. It's not the increase in cost of steel, but if you take a look at the middle school roof. What has come to light is the construction design documents have developed. There's additional steel that's needed to reinforce that roof to handle the loads that will be on the roof once that building is renovated, in addition to dealing with snow drifts. Those are issues that weren't in place. The regulations and what is needed in terms of steel were not in place when that building was originally constructed some 50-odd years ago. There has been, the construction market overall has been heating up. Which has driven the cost up. In addition to there too, the HVAC system that's been designed and continues to be designed in the building. As the construction design documents evolved, the HVAC system that's been selected to go into those buildings, the cost of that has increased. How will we deal with this issue? Over the last 2 weeks, the design development team, construction team have identified various alternative solutions to resolve issues that need to be presented to and vetted by the Secondary School Building Committee beginning tomorrow evening, November 20th at 5:30, which we will meet in the modular cafeteria at the high school. The design development team has met since last Tuesday, including a meeting that was held with various representatives from the town and the Secondary School Building Committee for half the day on Saturday and for over 3 hours this morning, discussing various alternatives. These alternatives, some of which have been completely vetted and will be discussed tomorrow evening and voted on, up or down, by the Secondary School Building Committee. Some alternatives still need to be fully looked into by the architect, the OPM, and the construction manager. So what is next? Early bid packages, some of which have been received. The last one will be received in mid-December by the Secondary School Building Committee. Once again, those packages related to site, concrete, and steel. As I previously stated, the construction design documents will be completed by January 2013. At that time, once those documents are complete, we will have the final estimated cost of the project. Some of you may be sitting here saying, well, why didn't we know this number beforehand? This is the process that is a joint effort by the MSBA and the town, and every town goes through this particular process. As you know, we had $1 million to do the feasibility study, and that's where the schematic design documents came out of, and that's what the initial estimate was based upon. And as I have learned, it's very early in the process, but that's the process that every community goes through. The goal remains of the Secondary School Building Committee to keep this project on schedule and on budget. And that's what we are endeavoring to do. Secondary School Building Committee is working very diligently with our professional team, and that goal remains the same. Try to answer any questions that anyone may have in the audience. Mr. Yule.
Thank you again. The question that I have really refers to the additional steel that is needed. I'm not a contractor, so my terminology might be off, but in the initial schematic design, should that not have been something that should have been identified by now? They should have known this at this point.
By this, well, they know it now.
Well, they know it now, but before this, but this should not have been a surprise, I guess is what I'm
well, what
getting
happens
at.
is as the construction documents get developed, there's more detail, there's more flesh that goes on the bone as they move through the process, for lack of a better term. And as they went through that, and once you factor in equipment and so forth that needs to be placed on the roof of that particular building, in addition, taking into consideration what wasn't taken into consideration a number of years ago, snow drifts and the like. That's how this gets developed at this point in time.
But snow drifts probably should have been thought of at that time. It seems kind of late to be thinking about something like that at this time. That's what it would appear to me.
Mr. Messere.
I think what Sean hasn't said clearly is that the requirements for snow load back 50, 60 years ago versus today have changed drastically.
Right.
Okay, so that's one issue. Your question, though, should have been caught? Perhaps it should have been. But it's being driven by the fact that the standards or the requirements that have to be met.
Right, and I understand that. But I would think that when they were doing this schematic design, they were basing it on today's standards, and they had to have known that the building was built on yesterday's standards. So, my concern here is now there's going to be an increased cost, which is going to translate to something that's going to be taken out of the equation. At the construction level, that's going to be taken away from the students to some degree, because the building, if they're going to put more into the steel for the roof for the school, they got to take it away from someplace else, and that's a concern that I have.
Well, I can tell you this, that any of the changes or the alternatives that the committee has either already approved or will approve potentially starting tomorrow evening does not affect the educational aspect of the programs of either the middle school or the high school.
So then it might be out on the fields, the athletic fields, softball fields, baseball fields, something like that.
That's potential.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's important for people who's ever listening to understand, and they should go to the meeting tomorrow night as well, because that's very important. This is going to be a big change. I didn't catch what the dollar figure was, but I don't think you mentioned it. Is that correct?
I didn't mention it. It's a number that I'm not prepared to state this evening.
Would that be in tomorrow's meeting, I presume? Great, okay.
Great likelihood.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? The audience, board members?
Just to the point that, some of this stuff, I believe, was foreseeable and overlooked and missed, and that's unfortunate, and, that being said, I don't think we've had a project that we've undertaken in the last 40 years that hasn't missed something, but, the good news is that you're catching it early on and you're able to make some adjustments, which, as you point out, won't affect the educational process within the school buildings themselves, but nonetheless is going to deviate from the original plans as presented, probably. As far as culpability and is there anybody we can look to, I mean, I assume that the Secondary School Building Committee and the administrator will take a look at that. In the meantime, we need to move ahead with the project because we don't want to fall behind on the calendar and keep things moving, so.
That's what I was going to say, Mr. O'Leary.
Yep.
We need to keep the project moving. Community overwhelmingly supported a project, but to round off $108 million, so we need to move it forward. Any delays is only going to cause the budget increase to widen, not close.
But again, specifically in relation to the increased steel that's required on the middle school roof, something that probably should have been caught. Unsuitable soil for where the foundation is going to be laid for the high school. I mean, know that there were a whole host of test borings done, or supposedly done, to properly evaluate that. Maybe they stuck the holes in the wrong place. I don't know. I would have assumed that sort of stuff was looked into because we know what the topography is there. We know how much ledge there is. So we know there's a lot of ledge there. So unfortunately, we are where we are, but I feel confident that, again, you're trying to keep it on the right timeline and within budget, and obviously we're going to have to tweak the plans as best we can in order to, as you say, move forward. So, again, thank you for your efforts, and I'm sure your heartburn and headaches and everything else has gone along with it over the last few weeks. So,
A few sleepless nights.
Yes.
Well, I can say this to the public, that following our meeting on Saturday and again this morning, I feel better today than I did a week ago. So that's good. That's all I have on it.
Thank you for doing the presentation. It was helpful.
Bring us out of the dark ages, Mr. Jones. Thank you. Town Administrator's Report.
Hello. Not bad. Looking at the clock, this doesn't look too bad, unless you have a long report.
Please, you just jinxed us.
No,
Wait until there's a motion to adjourn.
My report is brief. Pleased to announce the appointment and swearing in on this date of Travis Tremblay. Travis is a new patrolman in the police department, and he recently completed the police academy. Travis is filling one of the new patrolman positions that were created at the June town meeting. So I want to welcome him on board. His swearing-in ceremony was very nice today and was attended by members of the department, and we welcome him on board as a new patrolman and wish him well in his career with the town of North Reading.
Very good.
And similar vein is been informed that the Civil Service Commission or Human Resources Division is migrating to an electronic requisition system for all employee transactions. The reason I bring this up is North Reading is under civil service for its police and fire appointments and promotions, and they are migrating to an electronic system, which I'm kind of curious to see how it's going to work. There is a training session that I have to participate in as the appointing authority, but it's exciting to see that they're moving to that. The bad news is we probably went through 25 civil service promotions and appointments in the last 2 years, so it's a little bit too late for us. But hopefully it'll be more efficient going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
The jury's still out.
We shall see.
All right. Ready for all the new business? Mr. Prisco?
Yes. Just, Greg, I really want to, if you could take a minute to thank John and Dick for all the work they did out here in the parking lot area, helping out the food pantry. Managed the issue that I brought up to the board several weeks ago in regards to the traffic and the increase in demand. They did a great job cleaning out the area around the fences, putting out signs. They put a lot of their own time into that, and I'm really thankful, and the North Reading Food Pantry is very thankful for all their work they put into it. The election, we never really chatted as a board about the election, not particularly the election, but the process, the facilities, what we thought, some of the feedback that I've received, maybe some of the feedback you all received. One that was brought up last time we had an election was the I voted stickers. And I know it's a foolish little thing, but I have to tell you, this year I received dozens of people asking, why can't we get I voted stickers, especially for the children. I know it was a budget thing last year or the last time we did it, we heard about, but to me, it seems like, the public's asking for it. It's a simple little thing, and to even myself, it does seem a little foolish why we cannot provide a simple little sticker. So maybe you can give me a little feedback on that, and then I had one other thing related to
Just in relation to that, I agree with you 100%. And people take a lot of pride, particularly on
do.
election day. I saw people who came to work, obviously from another community, that had their I voted sticker on, and they wore it all day. And it's also a reminder to other people,
go out and vote.
that it was election day, and encourage people to turn out. But I think it's a nice touch. I think it's something that people generally like to just stick on there for the day. And
yeah.
And
if it's a budget issue, then you know what? Bring it to the table when we talk budgets this winter and in this spring, and let's discuss. Does it really send us over the edge? I'd like to have the discussion.
But speaking about, just as you're on elections, the only negative feedback, and first of all, again, I don't know that we really did congratulate the town clerk and her staff.
Yeah, I'm getting to that.
Oh, did you? Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
No.
No.
I started down here for a
yeah,
reason.
you go down. Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
No, because we didn't get a chance to really thank them, because what an overwhelming response. I was so
I
happy.
think this is our first meeting in this public setting since the election.
That's true, because the one we had was a public opening, but we were on TV, but it wasn't really a standard meeting time. So they did a fantastic job. 80% turnout, and they handled it. And I know the parking, and I know the traffic, but I want to say the police department, they did a fantastic job jumping out there and trying to direct the traffic. I know down Park Street became a little difficult, but they managed it, and I really would like you to pass along to the clerk's office and all the volunteers a sincere congratulations for all their hard work.
But I would say some people waited in line for hours in other states. If you got to wait 15, 20 minutes of traffic, I think that's a sacrifice for that right to vote.
And again, inside the building, it flowed very well. Obviously, the biggest issue we had, was the traffic on Route 62 to get into it, and we anticipated that when we consolidated the precincts. So once every 4 years, we kind of have to suffer through it. But overall, there is a cost savings, to the community to have it all in one place. For the regular town elections, where candidates like ourselves aren't the biggest drawing cards in the world, it really does work well. And in the state primaries and things like that. But in presidential election, yeah, we're going to have to put up with a little bit of inconvenience as far as getting into the parking lot. But once they're in the building, it moved right along. So again, congratulations to Barbara Stats and her staff. And
I just have one last thing.
I know.
Just one last thing.
Sorry. Yeah.
This is actually, I've been asked to relay this from the Touchdown Club. As everyone knows, Thanksgiving Day football game is coming up this Thursday, and North Reading's playing Linfield, and I believe the winner goes to a championship game. The North Reading Touchdown Club is asking those that are available around 8:15 to come out to the high school and give our boys a send-off. And they're leaving around 8:30 from the high school, so if you can make it down there, and we spread the word to let as many folks know, to give them a warm bon voyage and wish them well. And obviously, I'll be attending the game. I hope everyone else is as well. So that's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Misery.
I just want to call attention to the various events that have been going on over the past month. We had Veterans Day, and we had a fantastic turnout. Nice speech, Michael.
Oh, thank you.
And Joe for reading the most difficult thing to do.
It really is. It really is hard.
Whereas, who is, what is. And I thought, again, our Veterans Director, Susan, does a fantastic job. And similarly, we have to thank Senator Tarr and Brad Jones and his wife and all those that worked so hard to make the Thanksgiving Day dinner a success again. And thanks to Steve's mother for starting it. How many years ago was it?
38?
Long time ago.
Long time ago,
Years
and
ago.
it's something I think our seniors look forward to each year, as you can tell from the turnout.
Absolutely. Close to 400 people.
I want to wish everybody a happy and safe Thanksgiving coming up. And to my fellow board members, the same.
Thank you, too.
And hopefully we'll manage to get our tax rate approved at the number. It's a big number, and I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be knocking on the door saying, what's this all about? It was voted on last year, and the tax increase relates to the full amount that's been borrowed to date, that 1/25 of the payment, which covers $55 million worth of borrowing. So we can't lose sight of the fact this thing wasn't going to, slowly build into the tax rate. It was going to get hit all at once, and it's there. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Messeri. Mr. Fode.
I want to read a couple things that Mr. Messeri said. I thought Susan did a great job with the veteran celebration, Veterans Day celebration, and Colleen Fitzpatrick, the senior who was the master of ceremonies, did a great job. I got to give her credit, and also Sergeant David Peoples, who was a guest speaker, did a phenomenal job. I want to draw your attention to a club that was started this year at the high school, the North Reading High School Red Cross Club. It was started by a student by the name of Nick Phillips. They spent, him and his group spent all last Saturday in front of Walmart, collecting items to send over to our troops. And they spent all day there, and they collected a lot of stuff, and people were very, very generous. So I want to just congratulate Nick's group, but also the town itself for coming out and supporting them. So I thought it was great. Again, great day yesterday with the Thanksgiving dinner. I thought the Jones family did a great job, and I appreciate being invited to that. Good luck to the football team on Thursday. And just on a little somber note, I want to give my condolences to the Antonucci family. I don't know how many of you know or don't know that Dean Antonucci, owner of New England Beverage, passed away this past week suddenly, and I think it's a loss to the community. I just want to give them my condolences. And that's it for me, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mr. O'Leary?
I'm going to be echoing an awful lot here. Again, to Brad and Linda Jones and his son Nicholas.
Yeah.
Star of the show.
The star of the show as far as the Thanksgiving dinner yesterday. What a job he did.
Governor on 25th.
A star is born here, and we all better be looking over our shoulder here. So
maybe you.
Maybe me. Not you.
I'll be gone, just to be here.
No, but again, the dinner was a terrific success, and for Brad and Linda and Bruce and all the other sponsors, including Mr. Messeri and his wife Angela, it is a great time that the community really does look forward to, and it's wonderful that it's been able to be maintained over the years. I too want to acknowledge the untimely passing of Dean Antonucci. Terrific fellow, terrific family man, great member of the business community, very caring and giving individual, and very untimely passing. And DeMarcy and the kids, they're my deepest condolences and prayers and thoughts are with them. Again, I hope everybody has a safe and happy holiday, particularly if you're traveling. And to the football team, we need to bring home Turkleys, So bring home the Turkleys trophy, and then we can all. The turkey always tastes better after a win.
Where's the game this year, Steve?
It's in Linfield. It's in Linfield. So, and to everybody, the board members, happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Mr. Iconis.
Thank you. Thank you.
When you go last, there's really not much to add, but you have to echo most of what was said today and tonight. I start with thanking Brad and Linda Jones, Bruce Tower, and all the sponsors for yesterday's Thanksgiving Day dinner. Once again, another fantastic event, and as Mr. Messeri said, thank Edie O'Leary for starting it 38 years ago, and the tradition continues, and I look forward to attending it again next year. I'd like to congratulate Travis Tremblay, becoming a police officer in North Reading. I'm sure it's of great pride to his dad, Larry, who's a sergeant on the department, to be on the force with his son now. I'm sure it's a great deal of pride for him and the family. And I, too, want to pass along my condolences to Dean Antonucci's family, as was mentioned by both Mr. Fode and Mr. O'Leary. When I was involved with athletic groups, you went down to New England Beverage, and Dean never said no to anyone. So he's a tremendous loss to this community. Quite the businessman, quite the family man, and my condolences go out to his family. I too to wish Thanksgiving to the entire community, my fellow board members. Hopefully it's a happy, safe one with each one's family, and see you in a couple of weeks. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second motion?
Do we want to enter into executive session briefly, just for what we had, Mr. Petrosino's thing, to see if we, one other stipulation we may want to attach to the proposed agreement?
Yeah, there's probably, Mr. Pierce had actually provided me some information that
Okay.
I wanted to share with you guys.
5 minutes, not even.
Yeah, no, I mean, we should deal with it now.
Mr. Fode
Time-
gets no early again, but, you know.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Time is of the essence in that matter, so
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile.
Great.
Okay, let's propose a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move into executive session for the purposes of especially litigation. Any discussion in public session may be detrimental to the position of the community, and we will come back into open session for the sole purpose of adjournment.
Second.
Motion. Second. Mr. Prisco.
Aye.
Mr. Messeri. Mr. O'Leary.
Aye.
I can vote to go in, but I have to. Mr. Fode. Aye. Chair votes aye. We're in executive session. Mr. Fode, you're abstaining yourself once again for the same reasons as earlier.
Thank you.
Okay?